You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
I think we all at a great breaking point, like just overall, like all the safeties they find in, like all the fundamentals for like the formations, the coverages, and like our main keys. I think everybody's starting to get on board.
I believed in the process. I came here at Aurich, he took me in with open arms. He explained to me, basically he was just telling me everything I needed to know. And I feel like me coming here, I was going to be able to develop as a player and as a leader too. So I seen the vision, and I just basically see myself, playing here.
He be having me playing a different position. He moved me around the field a lot. I like that. And I like how he, send pressure to go get a quarterback. We ain't playing patient this year. We playing fast and physical football out there, violent.
Good morning. Welcome in Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Next Gen Mail Medical. That's Austin. I'm Ravi here at Hurrdat Sports HQ. What's up, Austin?
I wore the long sleeve today.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was rainy.
I don't know what the temp's going to be like in the building today, but I think you're going to. I understand why I wore the long sleeves. DB, this is a pre-existing condition that is not related to the temperature of any given building. In fact, he usually would change the temperature of the building to match his long sleeves. But we're adapting to our surroundings here.
That's right.
You got to do what you got to do.
You got to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. Ain't that right?
Yeah. You change the temp. You don't take it.
Bang. The first time I ever heard that phrase, it made no sense to me.
Yeah.
I heard it on a Nebraska football broadcast. I think it was the Minnesota game.
Yeah.
During the Frost era, which, all those were very notable.
Yeah, those went super well.
Except the first one was great. Stanley Morgan down the seam. People forget.
We do have Stanley Morgan.
But yeah, that was the first time I heard that. And I remember it was a pregame for one of our college functions. And I was watching it at our double wide trailer. And everyone in the room was not paying attention. But I heard that phrase and I just did not understand what it meant.
Yeah.
I just, my brain wasn't fully developed yet.
Well, it's okay. There may have been some other factors there in the double wide trailer that didn't allow you to process things.
I could go on and on.
Yeah, it was probably the possums that lived underneath.
Yeah, you never know what possums are doing, man.
Possums are wild.
They are wild.
Just of all the animals that you could see out in your backyard, I don't want to see a possum. I don't want to see a raccoon. Skunks are bad.
Yes. I will say possums might be the ugliest.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
They're like giant rats.
And then they're just hanging out, pretending to be dead. Stop doing that.
Yes.
Leave. Just scurry.
Knock it off, man.
Don't hang out here because now I feel like I got to do something about it.
I know. I don't. Just leave me alone. You just go do your thing. I'll do my thing. I don't want to have to deal with you and your rat tail and all sorts of stuff.
Are possums bad here?
Not terrible, but you can see them every once in a while. My dog's got one in the backyard one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know your dogs were like that.
They're not really.
They got the killer mentality.
They were just like, hey, you don't belong here, man.
Ava has a neighborhood fox that she hates. She has a huge beef with the neighborhood fox. And when we first moved here, we'd go out on walks at about 5:45 or 6 in the morning, and we'd do this big loop around our entire kind of section of neighborhood. It was about a 5K walk. It was great. But this fox started tailing us at different times because I think he was just like, what are you doing? Who are these people out doing just walking this 3-mile loop? And it would follow us for a long time. Ava did not appreciate that. And now she sees that fox. And it's immediate. And my dog, she's really chill.
On site.
Yeah.
She's
really chill. Doesn't want to do anything.
Super chill.
She will start huffing and puffing and just hyping herself up. And then she'll start yipping and yapping at her. I don't know what goes on. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. I've seen a couple fox in our neighborhood. They did a bunch of construction. And I think there may have been a little wildlife area up there. And so now they're just hey, where do we go? So we've seen I've seen a coyote.
But that's fine.
I've seen a coyote.
Thank you.
I've seen a fox a couple times. I think I've seen a deer even, which is I live in a pretty suburban area. That's weird to see deer.
I've seen a deer in our neighborhood too, and it did shock me. There's also a pack of turkeys that lives in our neighborhood, which I don't really understand why either. That's got to be somebody's.
There's random turkeys. So, especially if you go up by Boys Town, there's turkeys all over that mug.
Makes more sense because there's a lot more trees. People hang out,
So,
and those turkeys, they know they're not getting hunting.
Oh,
they're just this is the life. We got nothing to worry about.
So there was one point where our lease was up on our apartment and we hadn't found a house yet. And So we were with my parents for a couple months.
Yeah. Dangerous time.
And yeah, it's dicey, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, I don't want to re-up the lease, but it's like, and then
they always get you too, because your lease will end in March or some very awkward time.
And it was just like, okay, so we don't really want to re-up the lease. We're really trying to get a house, and we had the down payment. We're ready to go. We just hadn't found the house yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're living in my parents' basement for a little bit, and Natasha was going a little stir crazy, right? Like she just was. She was like, it was us and the dogs in the basement. Like it was a lot.
The more people you add into a home, the smaller the home gets.
100%.
Does not matter how big the house is.
The walls were closing in. Like it was. And so for some reason, there was some random ass turkey by the Walgreens by where my parents live.
Mm-hmm.
And Natasha, like, she's not doing like great headspace wise with the situation.
Did she befriend the turkey?
She did. She just starts feeding the turkey every night.
That's not good.
I don't know why she was going
Don't
to
do
Walgreens
that
every night, but she was going, I think, specifically to feed the turkey. And I was like, what's happening right now?
She was going to take that turkey down the Oregon Trail, like travel west with the turkey.
I was like, what are you going to put it on a leash and take it home? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, people be doing weird stuff, though. Like, I see those nature videos of people who have trained deer that live in, like, the woods to come and hang out. And they're like, oh, it's like my puppy. I don't know.
Have you seen the ones where the fox will, like, come in their house and just chill?
Yeah.
That's kind of my dream, I'll be honest.
So my brother and sister-in-law live in Alaska, in Wasilla, and they have a backyard that is just mountains, like just mountains.
I could throw it over the mountains.
and they will be sending me videos of just moose walking through their backyards. Now, for the untrained person,
meese are huge.
Yes, meese are gigantic, and also meese very dangerous.
Oh yeah,
be careful of meese.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for the meese.
Yeah. And
they are enormous and kind of mean.
Yeah. So my niece, who's, yay big. Yeah. She's always pounding the glass. Niece. No, stop.
Niece smaller than niece.
True.
Yeah.
That's you could write a children's book.
The nieces be huge. The nieces be tiny.
You should write a children's book. I think you'd do great. Ravi stars with Ravi Lula.
The nieces and nieces.
The nieces and nieces. Wow. Great stuff.
And the geese on the leases.
You're 4 pages in. You're a quarter of the way done.
So basically, it would just be the moose at Pinnacle Bank Championship having a goose on the loose, and then the niece being like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, I mean, again, the only other thing is you need an overarching storyline. You just need some lesson to learn. Yeah. Don't get mauled by a moose. Apparently,
Kenny says he thinks moose kill more people than bears. I would believe that because a lot of bears, especially black bears, they're not like real confrontational.
Yeah, and bears are pretty secluded. You have to kind of go find bears.
Yeah.
That's another thing. My brother, he's being out there, he does guided bear hunts. Like he guides people to do bear hunts.
Oh.
Weird.
I see.
Yeah.
That's a move.
He's kind of like Bear Grylls. He was like, I was out there for 2 days, 3 days, just waiting for this bear to show up. He said the first time they did it, he did it solo, which they highly don't recommend.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea.
And at one point, he said this, so I think he was just trying to amp up the story, which, he does because he's my older brother. But he had said, at some point, I started to think and then maybe realize that the bear was stalking me and I was no longer stalking the bear. And I was like, yeah, leave, go home. You have a house with walls. Go back to your home. Don't live in the woods.
I don't understand the appeal. I really don't.
I'm with you.
I've never
once we got past the point of needing to kill bears for our own protection, why are we going out for the thrill? What is the point? We have already passed that point.
That's what I mean.
We don't need to do this again.
There's other ways to get your thrills. I just do not understand people that hey, I work really hard all week. I make money to support myself and my family or whatever. Now I'm going to use some of that money to pretend to be homeless. That doesn't check out to me at all.
I hate camping. Camping's the worst.
Just got a fist bump on that.
There's just nothing worse than not sleeping in my own bed willingly and then also being like, I'll sleep on the ground. Nothing better than that.
Yeah.
Again, we have advanced far enough that we can sleep in beds. We can do these things.
I'll do a cabin. I'm fine with
cabin. Yeah.
It's not my favorite. I wouldn't choose it, but I'll do a cabin.
And again, I'm still young enough. I'm getting older now where I'm starting to no longer request couches and such. But I'll couch it if I need to. You know, I'll do that sort of stuff.
Indoors is crucial. And I'm going to be honest. I'm a big locked door guy. I need a locked door between me and the outside world.
See, that's the Omaha in you. Western Nebraska, everything's open.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Everything's unlocked. You should spend a week in Sydney. Do you think you'd make it?
Absolutely not.
You just get bored. That's all that it would be.
Lee says, Ravi, you're sure Natasha wasn't friending the turkey in preparation for her Thanksgiving meal she was going to make you? As my wife, she knows that I do not like turkey, so that would not be on the table. That would not be an option.
Also, Omaha wild turkey cannot taste good.
No.
There's just no way.
That
thing's been eating trash for like its entire life. There's simply no way that tastes good.
It's going to taste like the catfish of turkey.
Yeah. Anybody that looks you in the eyes is just like, I enjoy catfish. No, you don't. No, you don't. You do not like catfish. That's the same reason I don't like lobster. I don't like lobster because it's just a bug.
Your dad's in the chat. He says,
what?
And he hunts with a bow.
That is my dad.
I know.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, no.
That's tough. I know your dad. I know who your dad is. He doesn't know ball.
Yeah, that's tough. Hey, he's in the chat. Why are you doing that? That's first thing in the morning. Just hanging out in Grand Island? You're just going to make fun of him? You're going to make fun of a guy in Central Time, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
That's rude.
We're all in Central Time. It's good.
Yeah, but it's a different Central Time over there, and you know that.
I'm just kidding, Lee. I'm sure.
That's mean.
Fine.
That's mean.
I'm sure you know ball, Lee. I apologize.
That's really mean. I can't believe the problem is now he has exposed himself in a way that he shouldn't have. That's an issue. He should have. Well, come on. He works with kids. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I didn't know what he did. I thought he was a state trooper.
He was. He's retired.
Oh, I don't know that.
Do you ever listen to anything I tell you?
I heard the state trooper part. That's important.
And clearly then you just cut it off from there. That's fine. That's fine.
Like, state trooper, I'm out.
Again, another job where you cannot expose yourself. Stop doing that.
You can't do that in any job. There are no jobs.
There's a few.
Outside of like
Sierra Mist.
Which was true, by the way. We looked this up. All you people trying to gaslight me, trying to tell me the Sierra Mist thing wasn't true. That is 100% accurate. How dare you?
Where's Daniel?
Furious. When we looked at it, I was like, how dare they try and convince me that wasn't true? And they're like, well, that's your first clue is that Pepsi let a copyright lapse. People with good jobs are still bad at their jobs.
Notably, a lot of people are bad at their jobs.
This happens all the time. We cannot be stunned that these people are bad at their jobs.
And also, to be fair, and I know it's something so simple, so easy to do, right? To like refill a form or just to submit it, send it off, whatever. We've all been at work where the easiest task is the one we put off the longest.
Slips right through the cracks.
We do it all the time.
Lee says true. That's why I listen to you guys so I can learn. See, he's very disarming now. I'm sorry, Lee.
See, look what you did.
I had one interaction with you.
You know what the worst part is, too?
Yeah.
You're going to have to see him in person at some point.
I know.
So you're going to have to eat these words.
No, I'll just double down.
That's fair. You're gonna do that on the day of my wedding.
Yes.
You're going to double down to my dad. The worst part is that we are spitting images of each other. You won't know who's who. And he's Benjamin Buttoning. He's like going in reverse in time.
Benjamin who?
Benjamin Buttoning.
Oh, Buttoning. Okay.
Buttoning. What'd you think?
I thought you said Benjamin Bunning, and I was like, that's not a guy. It's not a guy at all.
Well, is he a dude, though?
Guy's name dudes?
Could be a dude.
Guy's name dudes. Somebody brought up to me, Kenny Wilson as a guy that he thought was going to be a dude. The old Nebraska running back. Apparently he had like an incredible spring in like 2006. And then he broke his leg carrying a TV up apartment stairs. And I don't think he ever played again.
That's brutal.
I saw him in.
Yeah, we could do a whole nother list of guys that like their name was bigger than their play.
Yeah. Well, and they thought he was like a 5-star JUCO coming out.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I remember the next time I saw him he was playing for like a indoor team from Kansas, and he did not look the same. Like he never looked the same again. It was rough.
Yeah, it is funny, not funny, but it is interesting at least how some guys will get the same injury. And I know the body treats every injury differently and all that stuff, but we as sports fans, when you see something from a 30,000 foot view, and you see it from just like a generic landscape, you see ACL tear, and we all kind of accustom ourselves to saying, oh, well, so-and-so did it this way, so you must be back to this. And there's so many more layers to that. Like, it's just so much more extended.
We also just kind of assume, like, these are serious injuries.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you hear an ACL, it's like, that's a bummer. He'll be back in 9 months. Yes. Like, we just, like, write it off completely. Like, it isn't the most excruciting thing that person's going to go through probably in their professional life.
But they legitimately cannot walk right now. We're just like, oh, well, we'll see you in September.
Yeah, it should be like, so playoffs? You'll be ready for the playoffs? No? I think the only one we give like proper concern to still is Achilles.
Yeah, Achilles is the one that everyone goes, oh.
Yeah, when somebody,
why?
And that's the one where we aren't like positive they'll be back the same. ACLs, it's like first year back might be rough, but they'll be fine.
Yeah,
right. The Achilles is still, even with, and because it's happening to younger guys now, it used to be like what happened to Kobe, you're like, he's old. This might not go well.
And then the KD one was very significant. I remember because that was, the national broadcast, all that sort of stuff too. Yep.
But you start seeing, unfortunately, a bunch of them now, and it's the only one that we're still like, hope they come back okay.
Yeah, Cornrader brings up a good point, like shin splints, that sort of stuff. You don't get credit for shin splints. People are just like, play through it. That's the other problem, too. We hear the word sprain. Sprain is a wide degree of injury because you can have a soft tissue sprain that holds you out for months.
Yeah.
And you could also have like a sprained ankle that listen, there are some basketball players that they sprain an ankle and it's kind of done depending on the severity of it.
Well, and like you've got your high ankle versus your low ankle. Like if you actually get a high ankle sprain because the like connective tissue is so much stronger at that point, if it actually does roll, like you're in a bad way, man. Yeah. Like it's tough. Like I had surgery on my ankles because I had so many sprains. Like it just couldn't, like all the connective tissue was so loose. They had to like tighten everything back up so it didn't just roll walking off a curb anymore. But it is kind of funny. Like you could do ACL, MCL, PCL, and we're just like, that's tough. Maybe a year. We'll be back in a year, maybe 10 months if we're lucky, and we're just like completely disregard the fact that basically their knee was in a car crash.
Yes, right, exactly.
The only time I ever remember, and it's the only time I remember a knee injury where people were like, ooh, I don't know, was Willis McGahee.
The national championship.
The national championship one with Ohio State, where like they showed that replay once and they're like, oh God, sorry about that. And never again.
So my generations would be the Marcus Lattimore, the South Carolina running backs. When he got leg broken and did the artery snap too? It was like
I think so, because they thought he might have to
huge cascade of things.
They thought they might have to amputate. Like it was pretty bad.
And I don't remember the Alex Smith injury that well. With Washington when he had his leg.
I remember it happening. I don't remember what it looks like, and I don't need to. I'm not gonna. Yeah. I don't need to.
Rico, this is not one to pull up. We do not need this one to like come up on screen.
Yeah, for people that are a little bit older, the Joe Theismann on Monday Night Football.
And I understand the Theismann and Alex Smith injuries are almost identical. They happen at like the same part of the field with the same team against the that defensive player of the year. It was nuts.
Yeah, I think it's a different when you break something. Like when we actually
when you hear the word break.
When we actually break a bone, I feel like we kind of take it more seriously, especially in football where it's usually like a leg is planted or something and like something very unnatural happens. When it's ligaments, we're just like, they'll be fine.
Well, and also maybe this might be a little bit too far on the controversial side, but like shoulder separation, I feel like doesn't get the due credit that it does.
Those are brutal.
Because people have always heard
pop it back in.
Yeah, pop back in. This guy played with it. Do you not know the amount of things that move around, the things that stretch and snap and all that other stuff when it pops out of the shoulder socket? It doesn't it's not a Lego. You just don't put it back in together,
There's other things involved.
There's a lot of other pieces that go into that shoulder. But, teach their own.
Kobe says, broke my tibia at the ball of my ankle in high school. Doc said, thankful you didn't have a high ankle sprain. That's what I mean.
Yeah, right.
There's sometimes where legitimately breaking a bone is faster than a sprain. And ankles are kind of famous for that, actually, where it's like a pretty simple break is actually better than a bad sprain. And I mean, I've done everything with my ankles. So
the one that freaks me out the most, and whenever I see it, usually it doesn't happen often because it's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
But if you break a femur, that is the hardest bone in your body to break.
Yeah.
And it just means that the amount of whatever contortion your body was through or the force or whatever, nasty stuff. If I see that just on the injury report or someone had that, they went through something.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Was that Kevin Ware?
No, his wasn't a femur. His was lower leg.
Yeah, his was. I think his might have been a tibia because it came through.
Yeah, you saw it poke out.
Yeah, your femur is your
upper, like your thigh.
Your thigh, like that bone. So it's a really thick bone, and usually you'll see it in car crashes,
Yes.
like legitimately because people get folded up inside of each other, and then it'll snap that way. So
you run into problems because there's major arteries that run right along them, that or veins, or I don't know which one's which, but blood carrier thingies.
So one goes away from the body, the other comes to it.
Yeah, I don't know which is which or which one that is, though. You know what I mean?
We'll learn A&P together. It's fine.
Somebody call Dr. Fiance.
She's sleeping. She ain't watching. That's been the funniest part of this whole transition. I had somebody ask me yesterday. They were like, "Oh, congrats! Really, really cool for you. New opportunity, all that stuff." I was like, "Yeah, thanks, appreciate it." And they're like, "What does your fiance think? Does she get to listen?" No, she ain't listening.
Yeah, even if she could,
sleeping. Yeah,
my wife doesn't listen either.
It's better that way.
Yeah,
and she gets enough of me at home. She doesn't need me. She doesn't need me in her head constantly. So she's fine that way.
Lee says the whole shoulder thing probably started with Lethal Weapon. Not everybody can just pull their shoulder out of joint because of bounce up a wall and put it back in.
That's a good point. Yeah, and so that's another thing too. Like again,
much like many other things, Mel Gibson's
yes.
fault.
So good point. Great argument. That's the same thing. Like in movies, we see the shoulder separation, people just like throwing their shoulder back into a wall and getting it popped back in. The thumb dislocation. Oh, that hurts.
Yeah,
that hurt. Like the normal person couldn't dislocate their thumb and just move on with their day.
Like pop. All right, let's go.
Which again, that's another thing too. One of my big squeams in movies is when somebody gets stabbed through the hand. And then they do something with their hand after. Like, no, that's not how hands work. There are nerves. There are things in this hand. You got to use this, buddy. Come on.
You're not John Wick, and that's okay.
That's what I'm saying.
The other part
Stop
of it,
getting stabbed. Do something different.
I mean, there's like an entire series of like either TikToks or articles and stuff online that like just go through the injuries and like what would have actually happened to the person in real life.
That's funny.
Basically, anytime you get hit in the head, like it's a wrap. Like blunt force trauma to the head, always bad. Like you're never going to be like, oh, that's fine.
Whoa.
You're like, oh, that was crazy.
I'm stumbling. Whoa. That got me.
Like, no, you have a severe concussion. You're going to be like Tua Tagovailoa in that thing for a while now.
Like the end of the Odyssey, he just had spears and sticks and everything else sticking out of him. And then he sees Anne Hathaway and he's like, I can make it.
We can do it.
I'm good. I'll be fine.
Yeah, no, Will's right. Zach Miller had a terrible. I think it was femur.
Yes. Zach Miller was. Yeah, that's one. Because that was with his Bears. That he. I want to say, did he like catch a touchdown and break it, or was it just on a normal play?
I think he was going in the end zone. I don't know if
I want to say it was something like that too.
I think I can sort of see it in my head. He says the most gruesome injury is heartbreak. I think the most gruesome injury might have been Kevin Ware. That was pretty bad.
I remember watching that. I saw the pictures of that on my LG Cosmos slide phone.
Nice.
Yeah.
Paul George was pretty bad.
Paul George was bad.
Paul George was a bad one.
But it wasn't on like a broadcast scale though, because that was a USA FIBA game, wasn't it?
It was the USA training camp game leading up to the Olympics, but that was being televised on ESPN. I was watching it.
Well, Gordon Hayward too, then you got to throw him in.
Oh yeah, that was the dislocated ankle.
Yes, and that was
first game of the season with the Celtics.
Yes,
yeah.
So man, that was a team.
It might have been. We don't know. We'll never know.
There's simply no way to find out. There's simply no way. But you're right. It's like the the Dak Prescott one, the ankle from a couple years ago when he's just holding his leg and he's like looking around. I think the announcer, I'm pretty sure it might have been Romo because it was a Cowboys game on CBS. Romo just goes, "Yeah, it looks like he twisted his ankle there, Jim." Oh yeah, he sure did.
No shit, Tony.
It's twisted the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, he's just looking around. He's just like, help me. He looks so like, is anybody going to do anything here? Anybody at all? No.
So when I was a lifeguard in Sydney in high school, I watched someone do the Kevin Ware injury on like the low dive.
Oh no.
Because they do like the run up, the jump, and they come down on the board and then jump off the board, you know?
Oh no.
This is an older guy. They were having some, I think it was like D-Malay, if you're familiar with that.
I
They
am
had
not.
some like Masonic convention.
Oh.
Not like Satan.
Oh.
It's whatever. I don't know who the Masons are or what they do or what they represent. But it's just who they are. This is just who was there. And he was like some supervisor. And he's running. He jumps and he lands. And as he like lands on the end of the board to propel off his leg, I just watched like shoot through. And I went, oh. And I was on I was like on the chair, the lifeguard chair, and being the good lifeguard I was, I waited for him to resurface and I asked, "Are you okay?" Because I didn't want to jump in because I saw what happened and I went, "That doesn't look like fun. I don't want to deal with that." And to his credit, he swam over to the side, he pulled himself out, and he just goes, "Ah."
He just did the Family Guy.
And so he was on the edge. And the worst part is like, he's not bleeding profusely, but like he is bleeding enough that it's like, get out of the pool.
It's like, hey,
you're ruining this for everybody else.
You're not concerned about him breaking his leg. You're like, hey, could you not bleed in the pool, brother?
I want to close for the day. I had a tan to get. I'm sure he's fine.
That's like when I think, I don't know if I've told this story before. I was at Barnes & Noble the day after Thanksgiving one year in high school.
How could this possibly relate to the story I just told?
I'll tell you.
It starts at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah. For whatever reason, the stomach flu had been going through my house that week, and I had avoided it up until that point. I was like, oh, immune. This is beautiful. Felt like DB eating 3-day-old shrimp pizza. I was
Naturally.
like, never going to bother me.
I'll never get hurt.
We get to the Barnes and Noble office. I was like, oh, my stomach's not feeling great. Try and go to the bathroom a couple times, whatever.
It's like Big Ten Media Days.
Not quite other end. But I was like, maybe I just got to poop, whatever, and try and go. Nothing happened. I'm like, all right. A few minutes later, I find my brother. I was like, we got to go like right now, man. Like this is, and then no more than like 30 seconds later, I turn around and I redecorate the Barnes and Noble with some, projectile.
That's incredible.
And this is where it relates to you.
Mm-hmm.
The employee comes over to me and goes, "Would you like to throw up outside?" I was like, I'd like to not be doing this at all.
Thank you for allowing me the graciousness to do it out there. Yes, I will.
I was like,
Thank you.
Oh, what a guy. So kind.
And also, it just never crossed my mind to do this outdoors. I wanted to do it right here in front of all these beautiful books. All of you people. And the worst part was there's some high school kid making minimum wage that day who got told that he had to clean it all up. And that's on you.
Got told by you to clean them all
Not
up?
by me. I never had to do that. No. I'm a leader. I would have cleaned it up myself. It went the entire time.
Kel Jam goes, did I miss Austin's apology for his bad frozen pizza take yesterday? Yeah,
whoa. Hold on.
There was some outrage in the Discord about your frozen pizza takes.
I wish I could see it. I wish someone would set me up in the Discord.
You gotta talk to Sasha. She's the only one who knows how to do it.
She's busy enough. She doesn't need to deal with that.
Much like everything at this place, Sasha's the only one that knows how to do it.
Maybe if we got it right the first time.
Listen, you're already in. It's too late.
I know. That's the thing is I've like rejoined 3 times, and I know that people are probably like, "What's he doing? What's going on?"
He's
here?
a lurker.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that just watches. You know.
Well,
he's got a special chair for him.
My dad's watching, so I'm not going to say what I want to say. It would have been funny, but I'm not going to say it because my dad's watching, which could mean my mom's watching.
Even better.
They can't know how funny I really am.
Do you want me to say it?
They can. You can say it. I'll act shocked. Let's run this. Let's do it. Go ahead.
Austin just in the cuck chair of Discord.
A what?
And we took a left turn.
A who? I'm unfamiliar with that. My Catholic upbringing, I've never heard of that.
It's the noise that turkeys make when you try and feed them at a Walgreens.
They don't make a cuck noise?
Oh, I was thinking like cock-a-doodle-doo. My bad. Oh,
that's what turkeys make?
Oh, okay.
Are you unfamiliar with what turkeys sound like?
No, they're going, right?
Kind of, yeah.
That's in like the neighborhood.
I can do the mating call.
Do it. Go ahead.
What? You've never heard a turkey call?
I have not heard a turkey mating call before.
I'm gonna start doing that in the office. I'll hit that right before we have our all team meeting today. Just do it right outside.
Archer just says, ever walked into a public restroom where it looks like a murder took place? Like, who are these? No. Have you? Is that a thing you've done, Archers? I'm confused.
No, I don't think he means a literal murder. I think he means
Like
It exploded all over
Gotcha,
someone.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that
okay.
sort of thing.
Yes. All right.
I think murder is an adjective in this.
Okay.
Not a verb.
Thought, we were talking about injuries and we got, I got a little confused there. It's 402 Bones says, he says, was 82nd Airborne in the Army. I know at least 3 people who have broken their femur on jumps.
That makes sense. I mean, that amount of
compound sticking out of their thigh.
A femur on
Oh, dear God.
I don't like that.
That sounds horrible.
What a way to start the morning, guys. Just a beautiful, beautiful start. Did not think we were going to get here.
Cal Jam. That sounds exactly like something a Catholic would know all about.
All right.
You don't need to disparage all the
Come
Catholics.
on now. Again, guys, my dad's watching. Knock it off. Stop it. It's fine.
Tim says, do the turkeys also make that stupid face?
Yeah, it's fine. I knew the face was going to be done. That's the only way you can do the call with the face. All right? Relax. Oh, he's on camera.
I didn't full screen you, so you can thank me. I did not full screen you.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Brandon. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. Well, TK, that got dark. I'm not going to read that.
We need a break.
Yeah,
we need a break. Shane, hit the music. Hit the music. We got to reset. We got other things we can talk about. We got other stuff. Who's coming on the show today?
Listen, Kenny says turkey call, scary accurate. Will Pickering, not going to lie, not a bad turkey call. You've got some you've got some people backing you up there.
Thank you. Thank you, Kenny. Appreciate that. Adjusting the big board with the people who didn't make fun of my stupid face.
He said, hold on. Somebody added new stuff to the background here. We're going to have to investigate. That's new.
That's not good.
I don't know what that is.
I watched that get put up. Yesterday. That was very funny.
I never would have noticed if Sasha didn't say something.
Would you say that these 3, one and the same? Would you put them in the same category?
I didn't even see who it was. God damn it. All right, we got to take a break. I got to fix this.
Okay. All right.
That's awesome. I'm Robbie. Coming up on the show today, we've got Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7, Andy Kendeigh from KETV, and my guy Evan Stone from 93.5 The Drive in Central Illinois, as we move on to the Illinois preview as we work through Nebraska's schedule. That's awesome. I'm Robbie. We'll be right back. We're Hurrdat Sports Live.
Why Nebraska? You had a bunch of different offers and visited a bunch of different places.
Yeah, so I visited a ton of places, and I honestly loved a ton of places. Built some great relationships with coaches, and it was a tough decision. But Coach Jeep Wade said something that really stuck with me. He said, "When you wake up in the morning, the first team you think about, obviously positive. That's probably where home's at." And so I felt like the weeks after I was going on official visits, it was like I'm waking up and I'm like, Nebraska's home. They've got so many pros. I think the program's like such on the uprise, things that people don't see and things that people do see. So I just think that there's things like at Nebraska that, other places may not have had. And so I just think that that's kind of why I made that decision.
Some stuff we did in to out yesterday, right? We're out to in today. Out to in. So ball's in the right hand. We got left arm stiff arm. When they get through the blaster, pick the appropriate foot up. You guys good on that? We good? Yeah. Okay. Out to in. Blaster. GP, you're throwing. Comes around, you got the stiff arm. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. On the stiff arm. So, press the can. Press the can. Pad level. Eyes up. Hey. Nice stiff arm. Nice stiff arm. Nice stiff. Here we go, guys. Pad level, guys. Pad level. Hey. Lock off. Great. Make sure they get through. Lucy, back up 3 yards. Thank you. Is that ready? All right, ball. Come on, ball.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Competitive group, they're competitive against themselves. Obviously right now we're through about 6 days of install. One thing I've been really pleased with is we're not always focused on rather the outcome of the play, but our process of playing technique, executing the defense, and really all 11 guys kind of live in that. What can they improve? What can they improve? What can they improve? If we get a pick on a play and we have a busted coverage or a misassignment, that's not really our process. So we're really focused on what happens between that whistle from the processing of our guys.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's Austin. I'm Ravi here at Hurrdat Sports HQ. Austin, we heard from the defensive coordinator, Rob Aurich, yesterday. We heard from Tyler Yelk.
Mm-hmm. We heard from a couple defensive players. V9, one of them.
We heard from some defensive players. So I just got to ask, what's going on with Dwayne McDougal? I feel like they're trolling me a little bit here.
You think?
No, I'm
do you
sure
think that there's a chance the director of player development put him up after maybe potentially hearing you talk
to
about
mess with me? Maybe. I don't think it's out of the question.
Truly,
we can't know.
We can never rule anything out at this point, which is very annoying.
Yeah, at this point, there is no way to know for sure that these things are not directly him just making fun of me.
Okay, you want to talk McDougal? Let's talk McDougal.
So after famously having not heard from him very much at all.
Once in March.
Yeah, he just trots right back out to the podium now.
Like a turkey.
Like 2 days after, I was like, haven't heard much from Dwayne McDougal recently.
I thought it was interesting. Just, it's funny. The first time this offseason, I thought the players actually didn't have the more interesting commentary. I thought it was the coaches, especially Yelk and Aurich there yesterday. But yeah, McDougal and Foster, I thought both just kind of said similar things about how, the transition to Nebraska, coaches believing in them, that sort of stuff too. But we keep hearing the same things over and over again. And you heard it a little bit through McDougal and just his experience with Aurich different times at different stops, is that it's a simple defense.
Yeah.
Like simple for the players. And if nothing else, that's exactly what you want to hear.
Yes.
From everything that happened last year, I think the more simple defense for the players. If it looks complicated on the other side, fantastic. But if you understand what you're doing in your role and you know how to communicate, which is another thing McDougal brought up, I think that's super important.
Well, I think there's a big difference too between, and we talked about this a little bit with the NFL versus college style of defenses, but I think one thing that we forget about with college football is if you can just force a team to execute over and over and over again, they probably won't. Outside of the best teams in the country, like if you force a team to go on 12, 14, 16 play drives and to play catch and to take what the defense gives them over and over and over again, most teams aren't capable of doing that enough times to beat you.
And this was the issue. I remember we both melted down during the Michigan game post-game because Nebraska never forced Bryce Underwood to become a passer.
Yeah.
And that was way too many times that
Make him play catch.
Yep. And
the one thing we know he can't do very well.
There were too many times that they were just allowed, 75-yard run on a 1-play drive or a 3-play drive, or, just give up a big chunk play here or there. But when they forced him to play catch, that was their biggest struggle. And Nebraska never forced that hand too many times.
Yeah. I mean, we looked at the stats on the rushing touchdowns. I think the running backs were almost at 20 a pop for the rushing. I think it was like 17 for the rushing touchdowns they had, which means they were just getting gashed, right? Like it was either basically on the goal line or getting gashed. The quarterback ones were right under 10.
Yeah.
At, I think, 9.2.
It was a 9, yeah.
So, again, you have these situations where you're not forcing them to execute over and over again. You're allowing them to take advantage because you're kind of, again, it's the thing I talked about earlier. You're sort of guessing, trying to make the perfect play call. And if you're wrong, you're really, really wrong. Whereas if you play a defense with solid principles, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing and everybody can execute, you at least give yourself a shot, even if you didn't exactly nail what you thought they were going to do in that situation. And like in the NFL, I get that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Right. The NFL, those guys execute at too high of a level on offense. If you give them, I mean, the good teams at least, like the top half of the league, the dregs of the league are going to be bad no matter what.
Yeah.
But if you give an NFL offense the opportunity to just execute over and over again, they probably will.
But also defensively, if you're out of position or you're out of technique, you'll be exposed right away.
Yeah.
College, you get a little bit more leeway just because sometimes it's just better athletes, better movement, that sort of stuff. But again, better communication puts you in a better spot to make plays or at least prevent gashing runs and that sort of, terrible plays.
Like TK says, he says the Iowa theorem. Exactly.
Yes.
That's what Iowa does. It's what when Northwestern was good, it's what they did. I remember watching I think it was the game in Ireland, and you could tell like they were still down and they weren't able to, they weren't going for it on like 4th down and short, even in advantageous field positions as it was getting later in the game. And I remember thinking, oh, he's just waiting for Nebraska to screw up. Like I distinctly remember having that thought, and they did, and obviously they lost. But over and over again, some of these teams we ask like, well, why can Minnesota do this, and why can Iowa do this, and why can back in the day Northwestern do this when we feel like we have better players? And I agree, for the most part, Nebraska has had better players. It's because the systems they put in place, especially on defense, allow them to just wait for you to not execute.
Yeah.
Right? They put you in a place where you have to execute at a high level over and over and over again. They're not going to give up a big play. They're just going to sit there and say, hey, if you can beat us with 14 play drives all day, congratulations, you win.
Yep.
It's like the basketball equivalent of like, hey, if you can beat us on 18-foot jumpers all day, congratulations, you won the game.
Yep.
And we'll live with that.
And Kenny, great comment. Bruce Lee's trope about a man who practices a single punch 10,000 times versus a man who knows 10,000 techniques. I mean, hate to say it, but that's kind of, didn't that feel like the John Butler defense a couple of times last year?
Yeah.
There were 10,000 different setups and 10,000 different ways to attack and blitz
And nobody
and do all this
ever
stuff.
knew what they were doing.
No.
Like you could tell.
It became evident, especially postseason, in their losses, that they were getting gashed for all the reasons because their alignment was not correct. They did not know their assignment. And then they couldn't play with full effort because they were misplaced or misunderstood into what they needed to do or where they needed to be.
Hesitancy makes us all look like bad athletes. That will make you look like a bad athlete faster than anything. And so that's why I sit here and people are like, oh, look how bad they were last year. I was like, I don't think these players are not talented. Like, I think there actually are really talented players on this team. I think the problem is when you are always hesitant about what you're supposed to be doing, you look like a terrible athlete.
That's one thing. So that'll tie a little bit into something that I noticed significantly more than anything X's and O's or anything else that he talked about with Aurich. It's actually something that was, I think it could be passed over if you didn't listen to it like intently the first time or if you were listening to it a second time. How much massaging of confidence do you think Aurich and the new defensive staff needed to do with some of the guys that are back?
Yeah, I don't know if it's, I mean, I definitely think they needed to help get them confident again. Right? Like, I think there's, when I hear massaging of confidence, I think almost like coddling, and I don't think it's that.
I don't think it's coddling either, but yeah.
I think it's just injecting confidence and giving them real world applications to, hey, this is why you should be confident. Not just giving them, because there's a big difference between giving them false confidence and giving them reasons to be confident. And I think it's the second one that we've seen from Aurich. And you see it with the defenders that we've talked to, whether it's Shavers, whether it's McDougal, whether it's Chambliss. You hear everybody on the same page. Hey, this is simple. We like to play fast. We're going to play violent, right? And when you can just get downhill and be aggressive, like people are aggressive because they're confident usually, especially on the football field. You are confident in what you're able to do. You're confident in what you're supposed to do. And so I think giving them reasons to be confident and saying, hey, like, this is the install. This is it. We're done. Let's just get good at this. That gives you a reason to be confident because you can do the same thing over and over and over again and feel really good about it. Like if you go in, this is a really good example. I'm not going to use tennis. I'm going to use you and Ironman, right?
Fair.
You did the full Ironman. It was really,
half, but yeah, fair.
You did the full
Appreciate
half
that.
Ironman, and it's really challenging. And what was the hardest part for you?
The open water swim.
The open water swim. How many times did you get an open water swim before you got there?
Oh, none.
See?
Yeah.
Right?
Point.
You're swimming in a pool.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I can swim in a pool. If they had gone and been like, hey, you got to go 2 miles in a pool or whatever it is, you'd be like, oh, no big deal.
No
I'm
problem.
good.
Yep.
You go into a situation where it's like, yes, I have swam before, but now I'm in a whole different situation in which I am unfamiliar. And now, again, I'm no longer confident.
Yeah.
Right?
Good point.
When you have an opportunity, if you had been able to go and get 10 open water swims in before your half marathon or half Ironman, you'd have been like, I feel pretty good here. I like where this is at. I feel confident that I can do this. When that's the first time you're seeing that situation, or it feels like a new situation every time you're out there, zero confidence, right? So that's the importance of simplicity. It's not that these guys aren't smart enough to remember the things. It's that when you've got so many things going on, you can never spend enough time on one to be confident in it, right? Like there is such a big difference between understanding it on a whiteboard and being confident in executing it on a football field, because things are moving super fast and it may not look exactly like it was supposed to. And you still have to have the conviction of, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is my job. This is what I have to do.
But again, I think that there's even a little bit more to that too. And I everything that you're saying, I completely agree with. But I think that there's an added layer. And the part that I referenced earlier that I really noticed just right from the beginning, and you'll notice that we speak in this way too. The media members that were asking Aurich, and you can go back and listen to this, the media members that were speaking to Aurich yesterday, they would refer to players by their last names, which is a very common, phrasing and everything. Aurich would either correct them and say that player's first name, or in answering his question would refer to them either by a nickname.
Yeah, V9 or whatever. Yeah.
Or by their first name.
Yeah.
And it's such a little minute thing, but he did it every time. And that's probably who he is. But I also think it's very intentional because what was the biggest, my biggest gripe from last year that Rule brought up later, that once I became aware of it and I had heard it a couple of times, it was something that I agree with Rule about, that in the college game, the assistant coaches in Rule's, coaching philosophy, he believes that John Butler basically, maybe not John Butler directly, but that the defensive staff, there were too many times that they just said, we don't have good enough players. They're not good enough. They're not doing whatever. Rule just said, listen, you got to coach these guys. You got to make
guys we have.
You got to make sure that they're good enough, because nobody else, we can't sign someone off the street. We can't bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
I like the fact that Aurich is making them human and making them people and making them players. It's not an NFL system, because the last name is the only thing you know about some of the guys in the NFL, right?
Yeah, you signed a guy 4 days ago.
That's where John Butler came from, right? That's where they put the last name on tape over the helmet, and you grab him by the helmet so you can be like, okay, hey, you were in the wrong position. I'm going to put you right here, and this is where you need to be, right?
Yeah.
I think Aurich has done already a really good job of already implementing, being like, no, we have the people here. I'm going to teach the people we have here, whether it's JJ, when he's talking about Jeremiah Charles, or if he's talking about McDougal, Dwayne. I know these guys. I know them by name because they're guys that I'm trying to develop and guys that I'm trying to do. And maybe it is a little too philosophical. I can already understand that. I think it may be a little bit too much in my head, but coming from just different football practices and different practices where, I'm going to these high school camps and I'm seeing like how they interact, it reminds me of exactly why the high school aspect is so important to Rule, because you have to develop those guys. You just don't get to sign new guys off the field in multiple layers of the sport. There's only one level, one division of football where you can just sign X, Y, or Z player and make them a number, and you can bring them in to solve an issue you have. It's only at the professional level. Everywhere else, you have to develop the people that you have on your roster and on your staff, and basically just who's in the building at the time.
Yeah.
And until your season ends, you can't replace them. You can't move them. You can't do anything with them. So how do you get the best out of them? And that's why I use the phrase massaging confidence, because I thought that was a really, really excellent way of just showing, hey, listen, I'm here for you. You got to be here for me. And we have to be in this together. I'm going to put you in the best place possible to be able to develop you into what you can become for us. And I think it showcases early too, with the way people are already responding, with the simplicity, how they understand the role a little better. The act of communicating was brought up multiple times by multiple players yesterday too. Again, just the little things make the biggest differences. And if you want to go stark differences between a defensive coordinator from last year, who, again, in the head coach's own words, may have not been the greatest at his player assets and maybe coordinating with the guys that were on his team, to a coach that's now referring to his players and correcting media members and telling them, hey, listen, this kid's name's Dwayne, this kid's name's Jeremiah, that sort of stuff. I think that goes a long way, more than maybe we would give it credit for.
Yeah, Eric says using first names makes teaching more personal. To your point, I think we've all seen those like NFL films, little documentaries or whatever, where they're talking about Tom Brady and he has some new guy in the huddle and he has no idea who the guy is. He's like, hey, I'm sorry, what's your name? And then he throws a touchdown pass to him.
Yep.
Like that's sort of what you're talking about, is like these nameless, faceless players that you bring in the middle of a week or in the middle of a season. Like that's just not an option in college football. Like you have the guys that you have, and maybe there's some guys that are younger and they develop and you get them into a role that you didn't think they'd have earlier in the season, but you're stuck with your team for better or for worse, for indifferent. Like that's your team. And I do think there is a mindset shift from last season to this season with guys that are, and listen, not for nothing, like at Idaho, you're not going to have all the toys to play with, right?
100%. Yep.
At San Diego State, you got a little bit better quality of players, but you're not going to have all the toys to play with. Like,
and they're not coming back every year either, because if they're good for you, they're probably moving on.
Yeah. Like Andrew Marshall leaving Idaho to come to Nebraska. Like, I do think there is something about, and I think this is part of the reason. I'm guessing, I haven't asked him about it, but I think this is part of the reason the main candidates that we were hearing about, the guy from Toledo and then Rob Aurich, were smaller school guys that were used to just getting the best out of the guys in their room. Because I look at defensive coordinator a little bit different than, or offensive coordinator for that matter, than I do a head coach, right? We look at head coach sometimes, we go, okay, is that going to translate from this level to that level, right? Can he won in the Big 12? Can he win in the Big 10 or the SEC? Or he won in the Sun Belt. Can he go win in the Big 12 now, right? Like we wonder about the transition, because head coach really is a really different job from conference to conference and level to level. I don't know how much coordinating is that different in terms of your actual goals and your responsibilities, right? You're obviously going to be playing better players, you're going to be playing with better players. But at the end of the day, if you have a defensive coordinator who's really, really good at getting the best out of their 11 guys, that's probably going to translate. Like if you've got an offensive coordinator that has really sound principles, really sound play design, and is really good at getting into a rhythm and play calling, that's probably going to translate, right? Whereas with a head coach, that's not always the case. But I do think that's part of the reason he kind of was looking at smaller school guys for defensive coordinator, because he went to the highest level, had a guy that was in the NFL, had him as defensive coordinator, and that mindset clearly just didn't work. Yeah. In terms of, these guys aren't good enough, they can't execute what I want them to do. Then ask them to do something else.
Yes.
Like that's what college is, right?
Yep.
You don't get to like sit here and be like, well, my system's perfect. It's these guys that are the problem. Your system might be perfect, man, but these are the guys that you have.
Yep.
You don't get to have any other alternatives.
Now you can draw up the best way to stop an offense, or you can draw up the best offense and you can have all these great plays and stuff. But if it can't be executed by the people you have, it's null and void. It won't work.
No, 100%. And this is one of the most frustrating things as a coach, right? I used to tell people, like I coached for about a decade, 1 year in high school and then 9 in college. There were things that I really struggled with in coaching because my personality just didn't fit what was necessary for the situation. Even though I knew my stuff, and even though some of the things there were some things I was really good at, there was a lot of times where it's just like this, whatever level this is or whatever is needed in this situation does not fit the personality that I have, right? I've told people before, and I know this sounds outlandish, but I think it's a very similar thing to what we're talking about. I've told people, it's like, I'd probably be, not that I'd be good at this, but I'd be better off as an NBA head coach than I would be as a high school head coach because I don't have the patience to teach and to adapt what I want to do to the skill level that I have and things like that. Like, I'm better off if I can just say, hey, go do this thing, and they can execute it. My ideas there, again, not that I'd be successful, but my ideas would work better there as opposed to having to teach them to someone. Teaching is not my skill set.
Right. Well, that's something I asked DB months ago. I said, what is the difference between teaching and coaching? Because I'd heard it from, some one-off coaching, podcast, whatever, or something or another. But especially at the college level, you need teachers.
Yeah. I think
can't always be coaches.
That's a great example of the difference between Butler and Aurich, right? Butler, I think, is a very, very good football coach.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a very good teacher. Aurich, I have no idea what he is as a football coach, but I know he's a very good teacher, right? Like, I don't know if he's going to come up with the most complex, mind-bending defensive schemes, but he will be able to teach the scheme that he does have at a super high level. Like, that's kind of, we've talked about this before with like workout plans and stuff like that. Like, the dirty little secret about all of this is like, it all kind of works.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you're trying to get in shape or trying to put on muscle, or you're trying to coach a defense, or you're trying to coach an offense in basketball, or you're trying to coach a defense in football, like, it all kind of works, right? The question is, what is your ability to execute that plan, right? Like, all of these things that aren't just like stupid ideas that you try on Madden,
right?
Like, all work on a base level, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't still exist, within the sport.
Engage 8 only works once. So.
Like, all-out blitz that's a very specific situation we're using on Madden, right? But like, whether it's a 3-3-5 or a 3-4 or a 4-2-5 or a traditional 4-3 or whatever, right? On some base level, these things all pretty much work. Some better than others, some against other offenses better than others, but it's your ability to teach and execute that more than anything else, right? Like, all workout plans kind of pretty much work. Some work better for some goals than others, but it's your ability to go out and execute that. Are you going to do the plan? That will determine how good of a plan that actually is. The best plan is one that you can execute, right? It seems to me that we went from trying to have the perfect plan with John Butler and trying to come up with like the perfect heist movie plan, right? Trying to Ocean's 11 this thing, right? Versus
all the people saying that we have a bromance in chat now. That's not a good look for us. So we have the same movie.
Hey,
it's a noble movie. It's a noble movie.
It's a good movie. It's like, the Rob Aurich thing might be a little bit more smash and grab, but like
more pain and gain. Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit more like, was it The Town?
Yeah. There you go.
Early The Town.
Early Town. Yeah.
Not the Fenway thing. Like, hey, get in, get out, get the getaway driver. That works better if you can execute it better. Like, that's all it is. It's your ability to teach and execute something. And I think there's a really good chance. We haven't seen it yet, obviously, but I think because of his history, we've actually got a really good chance of that with Rob Aurich.
And I think that there's the dirty secret about it that's on the other half of that conversation is you have to have players that are willing to be taught. And I think that the roster that they have put together, you can assume just because of the entire makeup of it, that is the assumption. But I think that's where we'll find out the difference this upcoming year. I think you will find out whether or not the team feels that they are good enough to not have to be taught and would rather be coached. And if they falter, that is on the roster's fault. I think that the defensive staff is putting them into a right position to be able to learn and grow from the mistakes that they had from a year ago.
Yeah, we'll be right back with Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 here on Hurrdat Sports Live.
Let's go. Pad level.
That was a dark day when that. I'm not from Nebraska, but I vividly remember that shook me. Like going, holy cow! A proud program like that. I mean, that football was good, and I remember that being a physical brand of football. What was his name? Zach, the big option quarterback, played tight end for the Bears in the league. Zach Miller. Yeah, I mean, I try and tackle him. So we were in the Cactus Bowl D2 All-Star game together, and we're on the bus sharing stories. And he's like, "Wait, what number were you?" I was like, 24. He's like, "You're on my highlight video." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I mean, you're an NFL tight end running option quarterback, and he just trucked me on the sideline. I knew what play it was. But, I mean, just big-time football. I mean, there was a big physical group of guys. I mean, that was the brand, and obviously, here, that's what, we're trying to build an element of that. But sad day for D2 football.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
I know my system. I know the defenses I've been a part of. We talk about being simple, fast, and violent. But I think if you would talk to our guys, we certainly try to carry enough to attack the opponent we're seeing. And we want to teach simply, but our guys still have to manage a decent level of install. Now, we're through day 6 right now. We're about 80% through the package, about another 20% to go with goal line and some end-of-game situations. But spring was such a jump forward for us. Like, they got an understanding of, the conceptual 100, 200 level approach. Now we're diving into the deeper details.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Next Gen Male Medical. That's Austin. I'm Ravi here at Hurrdat Sports HQ. We are joined now by Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, how we doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Oh, not too bad. Just talking some Rob Aurich this morning. It was good to hear from him and Coach Yelk as well as a couple defenders. Is there anything that you've noticed so far from, let's start with Aurich in particular, that has stuck out to you just in terms of like something you're keeping a note on for later in the season?
I mean, I was listening to your guys' first hour. I do think something that can be critical once you get to like October, when you feel like you're under the heat lamp or after you've had a bad possession, is I do feel like he definitely has a player coach vibe that sort of jumps out at you. It's the way guys talk about him. It is the way he communicates about his players too, that gives that impression that that's a real thing. I know Austin mentioned like him, calling guys by their first names and having sort of that relationship. And it's little stuff, but that stuff does matter. And I think that could be important when you get to the season where you have that sort of relationship. They've had a little while to build trust. And I also think we'll see if it pays off like they hope it does. But moving the spring up, I think, was incredibly valuable, especially with new staff members, at key spots like your DC, your D-line and your O-line, just to get the 15 practices on tape. And then you had more time with it to sort of like dive into what that tape showed. You sort of knew guys' skill set, and you were able to think through it a bit and what you want to do with that and meld as a staff within that. And I think that was probably a smart way to attack the calendar. And I would guess if it goes like they hope, they'll probably do that again in the future. So it's some of those tweaks that they've done that I think we don't talk a lot about, and it can kind of make people's glaze over probably. But I think it could be it could be really important, and it has probably helped them as they've got into this fall camp, being probably maybe a step further than they would have been otherwise.
BC, looking at just your time and what you posted from videos of what you saw in practice, especially from Yelk and Aurich, just because that's who we heard from yesterday, did you get the sense that there's a similarity in how they talk maybe about how they go about practice while they're talking to you in the media and how the practice actually unfolded? Or do you feel like you didn't get to see enough to really translate how that looks?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I saw enough to really make a too big of a statement on it, and honestly, to give people like the kind of a peek behind the curtain of what it is. I mean, it's like 20 to 25 minutes that media is over there. And someone like me is kind of just bouncing around station to station, like with my little iPhone shooting video and stuff. And you're picking up some kernels and you're hearing stuff and all that. But it's probably not the best way, honestly, to dissect the practice or give too big of opinion anyway, just off 20 minutes. But I do like the connection that Aurich has with, obviously with Yelk, because they went to the same school and have coached together. But Corey Brown, Roy Manning, I think that's a big deal. I know sometimes people get their feathers ruffled when a guy hires people in his orbit, and I never get that, because that's what happens everywhere. You hire people you trust, that the way they teach, and you respect the way they teach. And I think that's the key word here, is teach. If these guys are as good as Matt Rule hopes at that part of it, it was something Mike Eckler really excelled in with the special teams last year. And you remember that quote Rule would say with like Eckler, like everyone would get fired up about like him, jumping up and down on the sideline and Captain Red Bull and all that stuff. But really what made it effective was he was a good teacher, and he made it simple for guys to process. And then you saw it executed at a better level than it had been. And I think that's sort of the hope here with Aurich and the guys that he's brought in. And I think you saw up front yesterday with Yelk, anybody who watched the video of him, he's a guy who communicates really well, and has obviously done it at the NFL level, which I think is useful. And that's a key spot. I mean, that safety position, as much as we talked about the D-line last season and sort of took our shots at that group, they were not good enough on the back end with their angles, with their tackling, with their command. I think, Singleton's a really good player, but like as a whole, they weren't where they need to be. And so that, I think, is going to be one of the biggest tells of this defense this year, if they make a big step or not, is that safety spot. And obviously you have McDougal, who's got the experience in the defense, but I think Jameer Khan is sort of built like Owen Chambliss in the way that he wants to just absorb football. And so that's good. Rex Guthrie's back to push it. They've got guys like Caleb and Justin Redd on the back end who are going to try to have a say in things too. So if Tyler Yelk can get a lot out of that room, Donnie Jones is sort of the nickel they think he can be. This defense looks a lot better in a hurry. And it's just as important to me as the defensive line, which we probably put the microscope on the most.
BC, when you're looking at obviously you only get the tiny glimpse into practice. Is there anything you do look for specifically that you're just like, hey, I feel like I can learn this in 20 minutes or in the little bit that we get to see? Or is it more just like, I got to get some pictures?
Vertical video. I did love the vertical video. That was a good look for you.
It is a little bit of the latter, just get the pictures, to be honest. But okay, I was around the running backs probably longer than anybody else, and EJ Barthel, when you watch him coach, I know everybody's got opinions about this coach or that coach and how their room is stacked up and all this. First off, EJ Barthel's a really good recruiter. And then you heard Saturday, Matt Rule say, I trust EJ is going to have those guys right, like at running back. I just feel good about it. And you watch Barthel coach, and he's got Ron Brown, a veteran of decades, over there with him. And they're going through these drills, and the way they are so detailed and the way he makes guys run it back again, if something's just a little bit off, I really think that position group's in good hands. Like that, it's one of my least worries about this team, even though it's been one of the most talked about this offseason. And I think they'll go much like how the O-line goes. If the O-line is sort of established and what people hope it is, I think the running backs will find the guys to make it look pretty good. So I guess that's one of my bigger takes. And also, Rule said Saturday, like, you're going to see we're a good-looking football team. And he laid out the numbers, the lean mass numbers and all that stuff, what they've lost fat-wise and all that. You look at them, and they are a much better-looking football team than they were a season ago. And I know people say, well, you guys always say, like, they're bigger and stronger. And that's true. That always gets said over there. But let's think about this particular team. Like, when that was said a year or two ago, and a guy is said to be bigger or stronger, in a lot of cases, we were talking about a guy who was bigger, stronger now. He was then like 19 or 20. And so that's compared to when he was like 17 or 18. Now, in a lot of the cases, when that's being said, we're talking about guys who are now 21 to 23 years old in a lot of the cases, as opposed to 18 or 19. That's a big difference in bigger, stronger, and how that looks and what it takes in the Big Ten. And so if you want to, go to the fridge and get a little Kool-Aid for the morning, that would be it to me, is that they do have a maturity as far as just their age on this roster, that it's sort of developed through the guys they brought in the portal, but also there's just a lot of guys now, at least in their third year. I think 84 of like the 116, 117 guys are third year or beyond. And you're kind of hoping that pays dividends. Bill Connolly of ESPN always does the returning production thing. And it's not always gospel that's going to make you a good football team or a better football team. There were a couple examples last year where it didn't, but there were also some teams that were like in the CFP, and I'm not saying that about Nebraska, but they made that jump. Like Oklahoma was much more experienced last year, and it showed in the way they played and their record. And so I think you're kind of hoping that Nebraska with just more veteran around and just better bodies to take on this league can kind of make that move.
BC. Oh no, go ahead.
I'll just say real quick, to your point, Nebraska is third in that ranking, right, of Connolly's returning production. So it's Notre Dame, Maryland, which it'll be really interesting to see what happens there, and then Nebraska's third. So to your point, like they are in good shape there in a way that they haven't been in a while.
Yeah. So BC, I guess my question was, and I know again we're going off of what you said was basically 20 or 25 minutes of practice, but in terms of what you've heard from media over the past 7 days, from your 30 minutes of practice time watching yesterday, do you feel like this is a different tone or tenor than past practices you've seen under Rule for that first session, that first week that you've been able to kind of get a feel over the past few years? Or does it match something similar that you've noticed before in years past?
I don't know that I noticed from just what we saw on the practice field anything different than other times we've been over there. It's the stuff that we didn't see that I'd be way more interested in. And I know that's not good for radio, because it's like, well, then what good are you? But like when we get over there, you're going to see more individual drills and stuff like that. And so, we're not seeing as much of like Calandria and his ability to move around the pocket. And obviously when they get to the scrimmages with the running backs, that's going to be a big tell for this team, like who's really got the stuff, right? But you can pick up some things, like you watch the backs and you watch them kind of go through like some pass pro individual drills, and you see some guys that still have some room to go, or they need to get corrected a little bit more than some others. And a lot of that just goes with experience. Like if a guy's been around a little bit longer, he tends to have it down more. But I do think, and this goes back to Austin, like last week when they had the media day event in Lincoln, there is more confidence on the defensive side of the ball than a person might expect given how last year ended. with just sort of it went off the rails the last 3 games. But I do think with Aurich coming in, they were able to sort of reset mentally. I think he carries himself with confidence, as do his coaches. And that goes from the top down. Usually there's a ripple effect there. And I think you do see some of that. Now we're going to see how real that is in a month or so. But I also think they've done a good job of, finding high football IQ guys, and really made that important, like that they brought in from the portal that could blend in without it taking like a long time where you sort of had these off-roads where you're still trying to figure that out now. I feel like Chambliss, McDougal, Whittington, Anthony Jones, these are key guys. Dexter Foster, you saw yesterday. They all sort of fit as just part of it now. And that's so key now in this day and age. Like, teams switch over every year, everywhere. But who really becomes that team where you're close-knit and you have a togetherness? And Jameer Khan and McDougal said something that's interesting, and you hope this is really true. Khan was saying how, like, there's a togetherness, but guys are not afraid to hold each other accountable. And I think that is not easy to do on teams nowadays. And if you do have that and guys are willing to take that tough love, that can make you a better football team in August. And again, it can really make you a better football team in September or October when maybe someone has an 8-play touchdown drive on you and then you go to the sideline. How do you work that out? What type of togetherness do you have then? Are you able to take the critiques then? We'll see. But I think there's an optimism that's tracking the right way to give them a shot there.
BC, I understand as I ask this that we haven't seen much of anything outside of what we saw yesterday and the spring game, but you kind of mentioned how you feel about the running back room, and I think that's fair. Is there a group that you don't really have any questions about, or what group do you have the fewest questions about in terms of positions?
There's not one group where I'd say I don't have any questions about. Like, I think everybody's got to answer the bell. Mm-hmm. Like O-line, like if you want to do the on paper game of the off season, what's it look like in the preseason magazine? They're actually the group where you're like, and I feel like this is, you guys, I don't know if you'd agree with this. They're the one position group I felt like in this off season where there's always been sort of pushback. There's always been like that, yeah, but clause, right? Like to everything that's said, if it's a little optimistic or, yeah, well, they could do this. And then it's like, yeah, but schedule, whatever, there's always something. O-line was the one position group, and it's maybe the Jeep factor. It's the 3 portal guys that people really liked in January. So that kind of gave everybody a jolt right off the bat to start the year. Pritchett, Evans, where people will kind of go along with it, I feel like, and be like, yeah, I can lean into that a little bit and believe that's going to be a really good group. So they're the group I would be probably with the majority in saying, I feel like has a really high ceiling. And I also like that they have expectations for themselves. Like it was, I think, Mubanga who said, if you don't have confidence in your skill set and what you're going to get done, what are we doing here? And so sometimes you'll get that pushback too in the offseason when a player within the walls says something like they think they're going to be the best at this or whatever. And people are like, enough talking, Well, they're asked to talk once in a while. And if a guy is going to talk, I'd rather hear that from him than the alternative. And so offensive line, though, to your question, is the one I feel good about. And the receivers yesterday, when I was, watching like Quinn Clark go up and high point a ball in the back of the end zone, it was against air, but it still, like, you see him and like the confidence I think he's gained since the bowl game. And you see Quasi out there now with Ja'Cory and Isaiah, and Cortez could be a 5th guy. I think they legitimately could have the guys to, have a 5 or 6 deep there at receiver where you don't see the drop off. And that really hasn't been the way it has worked out. In the past, we've talked about receiver like that's a possibility. And then, you get to like the Iowa game and there's like two or three guys you feel good about. And, Billy Kemp is limping around trying to give you reps because there's nobody else. Like, I think they're past that point, but now is a chance to sort of stamp that down with confirmation and prove that going forward.
BC, I want to talk about the wide receivers there for a second. Do you feel like this is a group where you can feel confident that they're going to find ways to get open? I feel like that's kind of been sort of a storyline over the last couple of years. And I don't know how much of it is, guys were open and Dylan's not getting rid of the ball, or, the scheme or plays that were getting checked into didn't match up with what kind of they had practiced or what worked well against that defense. But like, do you have a level of confidence with the individuals in the room that they'll be able to get open on a consistent basis?
That's a fair question, because I think the one thing, especially going into last year, was like, there's not enough separation there. And I think they got better at it, but then whatever momentum they might have had sort of tailed off at the end of last year. That was really nobody's fault. You had the injury, and then, Latif got hurt in the Iowa game and stuff like that. But they do have to show that they've taken a step in sort of separating. And also, the biggest thing is, like, are there at least two guys who can truly, in a game, take the top off of defense, where it's a threat, where you can maybe it's the first quarter and it's an incompletion 50 yards down the field, but the defense has to think about that play's been put on tape, and that option is there, and they realize there's a guy or two who can run past them. And Dana, I think, mentioned it last week kind of in passing on the on-field practice interview, that there's maybe some of that developing. So that to me is the biggest thing, because like you hear Calandria, even though he's sort of clipped in his answers, the one thing he talks a lot about is explosives. And if you look at how many times he threw the ball 20 yards or beyond down the field, I think he threw it like 75 to 80 times at that distance down the field, where Raiola was like 28, and obviously Raiola's season was cut short, but still he wouldn't have got close to that. So Calandria is going to give those guys a chance to show not only that they can run past people, but I think he's going to trust them, like in some tight spaces, like that's your ball. Like I'll put it there. You go get it for me. And so we're really going to see what they're made of, because I think there's going to be more. I think there'll be a few more contested opportunities for them to really show that. And that's what Nebraska's sort of been missing. You have to have that. You watch the great college football teams. I mean, some of the plays that win games, you're watching a high level SEC game or whatever. A guy goes and just takes a ball away on a 3rd and 7, like makes a great individual play. Like, you've got to have that from that position. And so we're going to see if Nebraska is to that level or not, but they at least have the opportunity to chase that, I think.
Brian, you might have answered that just with answering Ravi's question, but is the receiver group the most confident that you see on the team, just from what you gathered and what you hear, what this came about from last year? Or is there another group that you can kind of feel that confidence brewing and growing as the fall practices continue?
Receivers definitely up there. I would say it probably could be the most confident. They're kind of naturally that way by the if you're a wide receiver and
right.
You did it growing up, you just grew up playing 7-on-7, and you kind of have that swag you have to have and that to be successful. So I think that's probably true. I think O-line's up there. I think they really think they can be pretty good. And the growing one, I think, is linebacker. And I think it's they have a sort of stabilizing force possibly in Chambliss. Chambliss has to answer that he can do it at this level. And I thought he was actually played bigger last year, but he mentioned in his interview last week he was at 205 playing last year. That's what he said.
Oh, wow.
I thought he was like 220, but he said that, unless I just misheard it, but I listened a couple times. So he's gone from like 205 to 240 in a pretty short time. So that's going to be interesting. But I think they're with him and, V9 and Foster, who's 235. I think that they're a group that expects they're going to get stuff done. So linebacker is probably the one where you're seeing it growing a little bit, where there's a feeling like let's be good because, this guy next to me I think's pretty good and he's going to make me be better. And hopefully that sort of feeds off each other.
BC, there was a comment in the chat just now. It says an interception 40 yards down the field doesn't sting as much as an interception on a pass 10 yards down the field. And there's a part of me that wonders if we hadn't been so, like, as a fan base and maybe even as a football team, so kind of traumatized by the turnover bug and how that hurt teams. And if I remember right, a lot of those were fumbles or like goal line interceptions, things like that, like really costly interceptions that we didn't almost overcorrect in being too cautious, whether it's just with Dylan's decision-making or the play calling or whatever, where it's like, hey, not every interception is the end of the world, right? Like if you've got an opportunity, you take a shot, you get a 50-50 ball and they pick a ball off, that's essentially a punt a lot of the times, right? Like maybe it's on second down instead of fourth down, but those aren't always the end of the world, it doesn't seem like. Is that something you think Nebraska could benefit from Anthony Calandria, where his mindset of like, hey, there is a version of this risk versus reward that actually makes sense to take some of these risks?
Yeah, possibly. And in fairness to Dylan, that's interesting the way you're framing it, Robbie, because I think there's something to be said for the fact that Dylan was well versed enough to know that like over 2 decades he'd heard it. Nebraska has basically lost a turnover margin like 17 of 20 years or something like that. Like it really is an astounding statistic. Last year, they were actually +2. And that the reason was they did only give it away 11 times. So that was very effective. But I think, in doing that, you did give away some opportunities that were probably there in the passing game. And I think people would say at times he was probably reluctant to pull the trigger. I think the biggest help with Calandria in just sort of piecing together like what they say and, sort of plays extending and sort of studying Diego Pavi at Vanderbilt last year and what they did is on some of those deeper passes, ideally it's a very low percentage risk play because it's sort of off an extension on some of these longer pass plays we're talking about where Calandria is outside of the pocket and maybe your receiver has had time to, it's sort of the second act of that play where you're either going to hit him or you're not. But in a lot of those cases, it feels like, unless it's like him throwing across his body or something, I think it's probably less riskier on some of those extended plays that it's going to get intercepted, So, but yeah, the point is fair. Like if you get it picked off 40 yards down the field, it isn't the end of the world. I just think it's important, bottom line, that the defense has to navigate that possibility a little bit more than they have had to do with Nebraska. And I suspect the way that it's been talked about that you're going to see Nebraska take a few more shots and thinks they have sort of the personnel to do it. So we'll see. And obviously you need your O-line to hold up too. We talk so much about like, off script stuff and the extended plays. That's all well and good. But Calandria took quite a few sacks last year at UNLV actually. And because, trying to extend plays and stuff like that. And a big thing to me is still like, can you do it in rhythm? Like Charles Davis, I was talking to him at Big Ten Media Days, and he's like, it's great to have that running quarterback. You still have to have that guy can put, his foot in the dirt and on time hit that completion, on 3rd and 5 where it's not sort of a circus act or anything like that. So that's going to be key as much as we talk about the other stuff.
BC, the last one here for me. It's funny that you brought up kind of the +2 in the turnover margin, even though, they only gave the ball away 11 times, I think was the number. I think we forget that there's another way to end up on the positive side of the turnover margin, other than just being super conservative on offense and not really taking those chances. And that's to actually create turnovers on defense. We heard some of the guys talk yesterday about take 3, right? They're trying to take away 3 times on defense. And that's a thing that Nebraska hasn't really done recently. I mean, 13 turnovers caused last year is about half of what will get you into the top, like 40-ish in the country. Like there may be as much room to grow in taking the ball away as there was not giving the ball away in recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. They had 13 takes, and I think you want to be north of 20, you know, to really be rolling there. You know, San Diego State last year, like they were 5th in yards per play allowed, 6th in scoring defense. I mean, they had great numbers, like a lot of top 10 numbers. They weren't like top 10 in takeaways, but they did have 15 picks. They only had, I think, 3 fumbles. I just wrote this story. It's not like I thought about this a lot. It's not like I go to sleep thinking about Rob Aurich's defensive numbers from last year. But I did.
BC, speak what you know.
Yeah, but they had 18 takes. I'm pretty sure of that. And so not bad, but I'm sure they want to even be higher than that. If you look at Nebraska's defense the last few years, this goes beyond the rule era. They haven't knocked the ball out enough. Like we always talk about picks, but there haven't been enough of the, like, some of that's because they haven't had just that pass rusher who like come, you know, blindside, or that has that hit where the QB's not expecting it or whatever. But the ball just hasn't been on the ground enough. Like I was excited last season in the opener against Cincy when Vincent Shavers had that play, you know, where he knocked it out and they end up scoring. That wins them the game in some ways. Because it just is something we haven't seen a lot of, but it didn't really transpire the rest of the year. They only had, I think, 4 forced fumbles, and there was like only 4 teams in the country that had less than that. And so that's a big thing. So I'm glad to hear that, you know, it's a focus with every team. I know it was with John Butler last year too, but it's got to be more than just the picks. Like you want to see them knock that ball out, you know, and just be that kind of hard hitting defense where, you know, ball's on the ground and you're running the other way with it. And it wins you a 3-point game, you know, in the Big Ten. That's got to be the step.
That is Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 BC. Appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, BC.
That is Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with Andy Kendeigh from KETV. That's Austin. I'm Ravi. It's Hurrdat Sports Live.
Why Nebraska? You had a bunch of different offers and visited a bunch of different places.
Yeah, so I visited a ton of places, and I honestly loved a ton of places. You know, built some great relationships with coaches, and it was a tough decision. But Coach Jeep Wade said something that really stuck with me. He said, "When you wake up in the morning, the first team you think about, obviously positive. That's probably where home's at." And so I felt like the weeks after I was going on official visits, it was like I'm waking up and I'm like, you know, Nebraska's home. They've got so many pros. I think the program's like such on the uprise, things that people don't see and things that people do see. So I just think that there's things like at Nebraska that, you know, other places may not have had. And so I just think that that's kind of why I made that decision.
out yesterday, right? We're out to in today. Out to in. So ball's in the right hand. We got left arm stiff arm. When they get through the plaster, pick the appropriate foot up. You guys good on that? We good? Yeah. Okay. Out to in. Plaster. GP, you're throwing. Coach Brown, you got the stiff arm. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Let's go. Press the can. Press the can. Pad level. Eyes up. Hey. Nice stiff arm. Nice stiff arm. Nice stiff. Here we go, guys. Pad level, guys. Pad level. Hey. Up on. Hey. Make sure they get through. Lucy, back up 3 yards. Thank you. All right, ball. Come on, ball.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
It varies with each group, and I'm still feeling I don't have a direct answer, and even Coach Rule talked about that this morning, like who our starters are, things like that, and we appreciate competition, but we have a group of guys and a collective group that can really play, and so whether it's a deal that we platoon it a little bit, and hey, 12 personnel, these guys are going to be our starters, the other guys are the backup, 11 personnel, this is so we can mix and match that a little bit, which I like. It creates a little more chaos on game day. I have to be a little bit more organized with the substitutions and things like that, but that's no problem. We'll get that taken care of.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's Austin. I'm Ravi here at Hurrdat Sports HQ. We are joined now by Andy Kendeigh from KETV. AK, what's going on, buddy? How are we?
I'm good. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, we're doing all right. Just hanging in there. How's the kind of last week or so, the calm before the storm with fall sports going?
It is, we're kind of, like, you ever take a charge in basketball?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's about all I could do on defense.
Personally, no, I have not.
Charges and fouls, those were my sweet spot.
Right. So you see the power forward coming right down the lane, and you've got position, and you're going to get trucked. So you kind of stand there and you kind of brace. That's how I'm feeling right now. But, it's all good. As long as you get the foul called your way, if we're going this way, that's good.
That's a good attitude to have, AK. No, I like that. I like that thought.
As long as you cover the sensitive areas, it'll be fine.
Cross your hands, hold your wrists.
Oh. Andy, were you at the Broadcaster Hall of Fame yesterday?
I was not. I was anchoring, but I will be at the awards tonight. John Baylor, the MC. Yes, but
gotcha.
What a class going in yesterday, Kevin.
That's what I was going to ask. I didn't know if you just had relationships with all of those guys, or just Cougs, or just I just kind of wanted you to hear your thoughts on just some of those guys that go in.
Well, I mean, Kugler obviously is a no-brainer, and whether it was this year, last year, 5 years ago, 5 years from now, that guy's a slam dunk. I mean, when I was fortunate enough to win the Sportscaster of the Year thing a few years back, I joked with him. I said it should be the Kevin Kugler Award because he won like 8 or 9 in a row for the state of Nebraska. The guy's a one of a kind, and he's just the pro's pro and does great work. And I think it's something that Nebraska, the University of Nebraska, and the state of Nebraska can be real proud of, that he comes from here. And he's a terrific guy. And I love his sense of humor. Some people take it the wrong way on Twitter, but I get a kick out of it because you know where he's coming from.
I was stunned to find out that Austin and I were not elected to the Hall of Fame. So
listen. There's always next year. There's always next year, right? You'll get the knock on your door next year, fellas.
AK, great question. Okay, so let's say that knock comes for you eventually. I hope so for you. Who do you want on the other side of that door? What kind of jacket do they wear, by the way? Is it do you go with the same gold jacket?
That's a good question. Yeah. Maybe a Brockmeyer jacket, the plaid, that's gross, the bad sports.
Can we get, what if it's Ramby with those sleeves rolled up and he knocks on your door? Can we get that?
Bill, as long as his sleeves are down knocking on my door, I'm good, because his sleeves were up overnight. Holy cow, did we get hit with a like we got clobbered with the storm. That's a great question. Who would want to be knocking on my door? That I could go, a laundry list of people that I worked with. Probably my mentor, who you guys don't know, but Jay Wilson back in Madison would probably be my guy. He gave me my first job. Actually tried to fire me. I came back like a bad penny, and he was forced to keep me on staff there.
That's incredible. That is a great story. Oh, speaking of that too, I did love your video with Lauren yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago with the tape. Were you dusting that off, or was that just like decoration on the desk? Where did that come from?
Okay, so we've got this sliding little file cabinet, right? But it's got padding on top, so it can double as a seat, a stool. So she came over to my desk, and we had to talk about a couple things. And the newsroom is such a big community. Sometimes you got to talk a little lower. So she came over to talk to me, but I had I stack stuff. So I have I had an old tape there, old credentials, something like that. So she's clearing this off. She goes, "Why do you have a toolbox on your file cabinet?" I go, "What did you say?" And she goes, "Yeah, a toolbox. That's a tool set, isn't it?" And I go, "Oh my God." She goes, "What?" And then she starts laughing because she knows this is one of those, I'm young, you're old, you're going to teach me your ways, sensei. And I said, "Lauren," I open it up. I go, "This is the way that we used to record things on tape. Like when we would record a game, we actually had to press a button, and it was a big beta tape." And she was stunned, and she was like, "Oh my God, we have to make a video because I'm so embarrassed, and I will never live it down." I mean, we have one of the cool things about our place, guys, is that we've got on our big studio file cabinets, we have a kind of a progression, like the evolution of the shooting camera, where it starts with, when you're doing film, like reel to reel film, all the way to the current cameras. And so all the people that get hired in the last 5 years, they've never had to work with tape. Right. So we say, "Hey, we got to shoot some tape, or we got to edit some tape or whatever." There's no tape involved. It's all digital on these little cards. But back in the day, these things were enormous, these tapes. And she had no idea. And she was so embarrassed. That's what that came about. So Lauren's the best. She rocks.
Yeah, no, Ravi and I had the same experience. He was trying to show me MySpace the other day, and I was like, "I've never seen this before. This is nothing I'm familiar with."
I was like, so here's how you arrange your top 8. All right. And then here's how you code, do a little light coding in JavaScript.
So you would understand light coding.
Listen, if anybody does, it would be me. You just get a little, get a little background change in there. Listen, people don't understand this. To change a profile picture in MySpace, you had to actually learn how to code a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. And then Ravi, you could have told them every once in a while you'll get a piece of email and it will notify you saying you've got mail, right? Like AOL. I mean, that was the way that we connected back in the day.
No, my favorite was, I was a big AOL Instant Messenger guy. You had the whole thing, little windows and stuff. It was
yeah. Wow. Yeah. That yellow guy running. Right.
Oh my God.
Andy, do you remember your screen name?
It was AK something or other. Like AK and a bunch of numbers. Probably AK in my football jersey and baseball jersey. Nice. And favorite numbers back then. Yeah. Yeah. Something like that. What about you?
Mine was the Spanish word for blowhole. What? It was respiradero.
Okay.
San Diego.
So
yes.
My brother and I always thought the word blowhole was really funny because it sounds dirty, but it's not. And one day in Spanish class, I just asked my teacher, I was like, "Hey, what's Spanish for blowhole?" Because I was 14 and an idiot. And so that became my screen name after that.
Hey, there we go. Perfect. See, the things we know that we didn't even want to know, we know now. This is fun. This is good.
It is.
AK, Channel 7, KTV, ABC, obviously all that good stuff. With kind of the big national numbers that we should be expecting from Nebraska Volleyball's television appearances, all the big matches that they're going to be playing. I asked this to Lincoln Arneal yesterday, and it's something that our own Anna Bellinghausen has talked a little bit about, but do you think that this is a key season that volleyball could really pick up some more steam nationally just with the pace that it's growing? And obviously the new locations are going to, but there's a lot of national broadcasts for college volleyball's biggest brand. I didn't know if maybe that's something you had thought about entering into this season.
Well, absolutely, and it continues to grow, and that's the interesting thing about it. And it's not just Nebraska, it's not just Texas. We got noticed yesterday that we have two matches on back-to-back Sundays coming up at the end of August on ABC and on KTV, and both matches feature Louisville. So that tells you all you need to know about how the game is growing, where it's not just Nebraska playing on national television. It's some of these other brands. And when Big Fox picks up, Creighton Purdue to show, that tells you something. And these early season showcases, I think volleyball has the right idea on these non-football early season weekends. Let's take advantage of these open windows and showcase the sport at the highest level. I mean, you telling me Texas, Nebraska is not going to draw a number 1 versus 2 coming up in Las Vegas on a Sunday afternoon when there's, preseason football? Or are you going to watch high level volleyball? And that's on Big Fox too. So that I think we're heading in the right direction. And as long as the numbers support it, it will continue to be showcased on network television and beyond. And there are more. Like when I'm looking at the Husker schedule right now, and it's like, Nebraska Public Media. Okay, that's normal, right? We normally get some Nebraska Public Media, but TNT, really? FS1, Fox, BTN. I mean, this is Nebraska volleyball is going to be on 6 different networks this fall. It's a good thing too. And I think that how they handle that early part of the Rockstar Tour will tell us a lot about this team.
Andy, when you're looking at this volleyball team for Nebraska in particular, have you started to feel kind of like an expectation shift? Like obviously last year was a little different because it's the first year with DBK, even though you've got a really good team coming back. Obviously you've got this group that's been around for a long time. You don't have the coaching transition this year, despite how great last year was, didn't finish the way people wanted to. Like, I know that it seems like we're a little bit more forgiving about volleyball and expectations than we are in maybe some other sports. Do you see that in kind of the preseason this year, or are people starting to be like, hey, we probably need to win a national championship again here pretty soon?
Well, I think that Husker fans hope they win a national championship. I don't know, and they expect to win a national championship. Now, I think this is the year too, and I do think that the expectations now this year is a national champ. Now they won't say it. I think this is outside noise, as they say. But I mean, with all the pieces they have in back, I think anything less than a national championship for them, from the outside volleyball world, would be a little bit of a disappointment because of who they have and what they have in terms of where they're at in their collegiate careers. So whether they do the 5 for 5, that's kind of up in the air about the core of this volleyball team, whether or not they come back for the 5th year. Tomorrow isn't given. We don't know. We know that legislation changes every day. So this is the year that really is poised for them to go all the way. Now, I go back and try to dissect last year and, the undefeated season and all that. And, maybe the pressure of being unbeaten was an unnecessary, unintended pressure point for them, but I will tell you, when you look back at that Texas A&M match, the one that they dropped at home, that was one of the great volleyball matches of the season. And you could make the argument that could have been, if the pairings were a little different, those two teams could have met in the final. It was that good. So volleyball, sports are weird. Nothing is guaranteed. You got to go out and get it, and anything can happen, as the old cliches go. But I think this team is built for a national championship, and I think they should win the national championship. But that's just me talking. And you have to take care of business on the court.
AK, I feel kind of bad. I just kind of how you're talking about in that sense with the storylines, the seniors, all that stuff. I know that you've got your fingers in a lot of different areas when it comes to KTV. You've got a really good team there just covering high school sports, Nebraska, Creighton, Omaha, the Huskers, all that sort of stuff. If you were to kind of put in a mixed bag of what are your top storylines that you're watching for the fall sports, just across kind of your entire KTV landscape, what are some things that you're most excited about, I guess, to follow, or questions you want answered, or something along those lines?
Well, I always go about, prioritizing or whatever. What is important enough to travel to, and that's usually a good gauge in terms of the measuring stick. So obviously Husker football and how they adapt in year 4 is this the leap year for Matt Rule, or is this just another year that they get to 7 and people have some questions at the end of the year? That is the number one. I think until fans show otherwise, Husker football, obviously in terms of priorities, that's where we're at. But Husker volleyball is gaining steam and closing the gap so much more closer than I started back 16 years ago. Actually, 16 years ago this week, fellas. How about that?
Congratulations, Andy.
Yeah, thank you. I don't feel a day over 11. So this volleyball thing is a really big development. It's really evolved in terms of how much. I think the care from the fan base has always been there, but I think the care from the media, has just elevated because of the demand has been so high. Does that make any sense? Like, the demand is so great that we have to cover volleyball with maybe a tip of the hat to the football. Like, we at some points we cover volleyball just as much as we cover football, especially this early in the season. We'll see what happens. But in terms of Husker volleyball, Husker football, those are the two big storylines in terms of where our attention is going. But I am fascinated to know what happens with high school football this fall. We're just 2 weeks from Friday away from having our first games, and to see the Millard South team on the field, I want to see who can challenge them. I want to see Westside. That Millard South Westside is appointment viewing, and see if there's any other team in Class A that can come close to either of those two teams. And I think those are the three biggies that I'm looking at this fall. And this is not to disparage any of the other sports going on, but obviously that's where our attention is focused. And back to volleyball, it's not just Nebraska volleyball. I mean, Creighton, by the way, back-to-back Elite Eights, and they're ranked in the top 15 again. I mean, that's a story that just keeps going. And I think some people around just almost take it for granted that we are such a strong volleyball state. But think about it. You've got the opportunity to watch two nationally ranked top 15 teams in the same state. And, by the way, one of the best teams in the Summit League right down the street. This is the golden age of volleyball, in my opinion, in this area.
Andy, just get ready. Week 1, Millard North, Millard South. Those Patriots can catch these L's. All right, that's all I have.
I'm just looking I'm looking forward to the signage in the stands. There were some pretty good signs last year whenever Millard South came to town. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Do you think we're getting Millard South activity passes for media? I feel like we're going to see some packed sidelines again.
I think you're right, and it's going to be an interesting deal. I mean, this is what happens when all these great players converge. So let's see what happens. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you're going to garner attention, and we're gonna cover this. So let's see how this goes this fall. It's going to be an interesting deal.
That's Andy Kendeigh, KETV. AK, appreciate the time as always. Great stuff. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Andy.
That is Andy Kendeigh from KETV. We'll be right back. Coming up next, we've got Evan Stone from 93.5 The Drive in Central Illinois. We'll talk a little Illinois football as we move on to Nebraska's next opponent in our schedule preview. That's Austin. I'm Ravi. It's Hurrdat Sports Live.
Let's go. Let's go. Pad level. Pad level.
That was a dark day when that, I'm not from Nebraska, but I vividly remember that shook me. Like going, holy cow, a proud program like that. I mean, that football was good. And I remember that being a physical brand of football. What was his name? Zach, the big option quarterback, played tight end for the Bears in the league. Zach Miller. Yeah, I mean, I try and tackle him. So we were in the Cactus Bowl D2 All-Star game together. And we're on the bus sharing stories. And he's like, wait, what number were you? I was like, 24. He's like, you're on my highlight video. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, you're an NFL tight end running option quarterback, and he just struck me on the sideline. I knew what play it was. But, I mean, just big-time football. I mean, there was a big physical group of guys. I mean, that was a brand, and obviously, here, that's what, we're trying to build an element of that. But sad day for D2 football.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Next Gen Male Medical. That's Austin. I'm Ravi here at Hurrdat Sports HQ, reminding you, call our friends over at Next Gen, 402-614-9700. It's not just testosterone treatment. A lot of those places you go to, you're just kind of a faceless name. They prescribe your hormones. They get you out of there. Next Gen Male Medical will actually talk to you, see how you're feeling, and they're not just trying to write your prescription. They're trying to get you to feel your absolute best, whether that's with hormone therapy, weight loss, peptides, or anything in between. They can help you out and get you feeling the way you want to. Again, it's 402-614-9700, Next Gen Male Medical. Do we have our guy, Evan?
Yes.
Let's get to our guy, Evan Stone, 93.5, The Drive. Stoney, what's up, buddy? How are we?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How we doing?
Doing good, Evan. I'm glad that you're on camera, but I just want to let you know that in case you weren't, we were prepared for your on-the-phone graphic. Would you like to see it?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Listen, can you explain what happened here for our podcast listeners? For our podcast listeners,
I know exactly what's happening here. So my wife took this photo, and Ravi and I we would only sit on the same side of the booth together, even if my fiance, girlfriend, wife was with us. And She was giving us scenarios. I think she just walked in on me and Robbie's wife. Or he just walked in on me and Robbie's wife.
Wow.
I think that's what it was.
You guys have a unique friendship. I almost wish I hadn't asked that.
Do you remember where we were at?
Is that a Chili's?
It's Applebee's. It was Applebee's in Papillion, Nebraska. That's where that was at.
Yeah, that's good times. So yeah, no, we're doing good. Hey, last night we had some storms roll through here.
Yeah, I saw that. You had some like tornado warnings, didn't you?
Yeah, one touchdown around here.
Oh,
that
geez.
was kind of crazy. But then afterwards, like the weather was perfect last night. So I'm outside last night putzing around. I got my speaker. I'm a big like R&B guy. So Brian McKnight radio is kind of going. So I got Brian McKnight. I got Boys to Men, Casey and JoJo. You know all the hits are coming through. And I turn around and my neighbor's poking his head over the fence. And I'm like, hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, oh, no, he's like, oh, man, I thought your wife left you. Right as my 2-year-old walks outside and is like, mom's leaving? Like,
oh, no.
That's the conversations that I had to have last night. So I'm excited to talk football today.
That's good. That's good. Evan, I have a question for you at the end, but we've got to get to this Illinois football preview because you're the expert we know. So my biggest question just for Illinois coming in is the biggest concern for Bielema, because he's been weirdly confident. Like he's doing his media tour of like he knows something that the rest of us don't almost. And I liked his moxie at Big Ten Media Days. Is the biggest question for him, and maybe he already has it answered through the start of fall practices or what he saw in the spring, that all these new pieces, all the new players that they have coming in, can they produce at the level that they need to compete the way they have the past 2 years?
Well, I mean, that is a big question. He's been huge on, okay, you look at our offensive line. Our offensive line, we're replacing 4 out of 5 starters. But all the guys that are coming in, what he's been hitting on all offseason, all summer is, they're new guys in the system, but they're not new guys to football. Like these are old guys that are coming in, and they've got a ton of snaps under their belt. They got a ton of snaps playing college football. And so it's really just getting them to gel together. I think he really likes what he has. And definitely there have been a lot of questions and a lot of people kind of maybe sleeping on some of it. But honestly, I think Coach B likes that. He likes getting on his Twitter game. He likes, people doubting what he's got in the room. And so Caden Hauser's another big one at quarterback. He started his career. He survived the Mel Tucker experience and got out of East Lansing, went to East Carolina and kind of reinvented himself there. And so now he's got one more go around, and Illinois has put 3 straight transfer quarterbacks into the NFL. So I think it's an awesome opportunity for him. And then a whole new defensive system where we got a new defensive coordinator. It's kind of the first major overhaul in Bielema's tenure at Illinois. And so that's like the biggest question mark for everybody right now is, what is this defense going to look like?
Evan, that is where my question starts, not just with the defense, but kind of the lack of continuity in general, right? We talked last year about how Illinois' superpower was kind of how many returners they had, the fact that they were, I think, the only team in the Big Ten to return quarterback, both coordinators and head coach from one year to the next. Obviously, those things are not true anymore. Luke Altmaier's gone. You mentioned Henry, the defensive coordinator, is gone over to Notre Dame. You've still got the same offensive coordinator, still got Brett Bielema, obviously, but a lot of turnover. You mentioned 4 out of the 5 starters on the offensive line. Is it too much or is it making too much of an assumption to say, hey, because the continuity was the superpower the last couple years, that there is going to be at least some level of a learning curve and some growing pains going through or at least the early stages of this year?
Yeah, I mean, there has to be. I think that's just kind of like a natural, normal, consequence response to having some change, having some turn. There's going to be growing pains, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where you're trying to figure out a whole new system and you got new guys you're trying to pop into the system. Now, we are in an age of college football or college sports in general where it's probably easier to do that than ever before. And you're a little bit more used to turnover because of transfer portal, because of you got constant new faces in and out. I'll also say something that helps is that none of the change was surprise. Like, it was all intentional change. And so it was all done within the framework of, I think, a goal or a plan that Coach B had. Nobody expected Luke Altmaier to be here this year. So that was always going to be the next plan, was replacing him. And so they've been, looking out for that for quite a while and planning on that for quite a while. And then Aaron Henry going over to Notre Dame, that was kind of a mutual parting. I think people were pretty frustrated with the defense last year. And it seemed kind of like, hey, let me hook you up as a buddy to buddy. So this isn't necessarily a firing, but it's you get to fail upwards kind of type of situation. And so to then go poach a head coach from the FCS level and bring in a whole new system where he doesn't have to coach, which I don't know if you heard, Bobby Houck, who's the coordinator over and coach at Montana, he retired out of the blue this spring and basically was like, I'm just done with this whole NIL thing, transfer portal. It's impossible to be an FCS coach at this point. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, I'm out. And then Coach B basically was like, hey, do you want to just coach football and not have to worry about any of that stuff? Come be our defensive coordinator. And so he came over here, brought a ton of his staff and a ton of people who have worked in this defensive system. So I think that kind of softens the blow a little bit, that this was all intentional. There wasn't anything that was like, oh my gosh, we lost someone, now we got to figure this out. Wasn't part of the plan. And I think there's some airbags in that. But yeah, it's got to be natural. There's going to be learning curves. You start with UAB on a Thursday night, and they're not going to be good. I don't trust that they're going to be anything.
Not a big Blazer guy?
Not a huge Blazer guy. The thing I was most excited about was seeing Trent Dilfer, but now he's not even there. So it's like, it's whatever. And so you get a little bit of a soft landing there as well. And so we'll just, we'll see. But yeah, there's got to be some sort of a learning curve when you have so much change and turnover.
Evan, most of my questions are mostly on the offensive side of the ball for Illinois. So looking at that side of the ball, I was surprised to look back at the stats from last year, and I always think of Illinois, you think of Bielema, you think of the way that he wants to run the offensive system, you just ground him out, but only 3.9 yards per carry, and there were some games that it felt like a slog at times, that the Illini just couldn't really get things going, especially against higher tier opponents. With the new changes, even though the offensive system stays the same, do you think that there's a potential that there could be maybe a more explosive offense coming, or is it still... Do you think it'll just regress kind of back to the same and just churn them out in those games?
Well, I will say this. So Coach B's got that kind of reputation because of his years at Wisconsin, when he just had, like back to back tons of 1,000-yard rushers all over the place, multiple 1,000-yard rushers in a year. Like that was kind of the deal that they did at Wisconsin. And then he goes to Arkansas, and he has some good backs at Arkansas. But really, since he's been in Illinois, I mean, there was one year with Chase Brown where they gave him the ball like 8,000 times that season, which if you're playing fantasy football this year, Chase Brown needs to be a high draft pick with the Bengals because he's going to be on fire this season. But other than that, he really has leaned into these transfer quarterbacks, whether it's Tommy DeVito, whether it's a Luke Altmaier or John Paddock or whatever. I think he's let the coach Barry Lunney, who's our offensive coordinator, kind of dictate what they want to do. Now, I agree. Last year, one of the struggles that Illinois has had almost every year has been a slow start on the offensive line and getting any sort of push in the run game. And last year, the running back room specifically, I'm not sure was what they wanted it to be. So a big change this year. DB would have loved this, but
Pour one out.
Wow.
Yeah. He would have loved this, but Caden Fagan, who was their monster running back, has moved to tight end. So he's now a tight end this year. And just that dude who can run 21.5 miles per hour at 6'5", 240.
Much like DB.
Well, it's like popping in a VHS tape. You know what I mean? And there he is. So
dated him.
Well, he's not here anymore. So, yeah, it's like you just so you move him there, and now you've got in the running back room Khalil Valentine, who is a 4-star recruit out of Arizona. He's a junior this year. He's really got an opportunity now to take off. And at the end of last year, we really saw who he could be. Aiden Lawfrey, who's going to be kind of, it's that Khalil or Aiden, but he struggled with injuries, but he's super talented. But a guy from your neck of the woods who's making a ton of name in camp right now is Nelson Wheeler.
Nelson Wheeler. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he's coming in and not as like a bell cow. He's not going to, get 20 carries a game, but dude is fast.
Can you believe he was the backup on his team last year?
Yeah. I don't understand how that works. As someone who wasn't a great athlete, but, like he's lighting it up in fall camp and practices right now. He's all over the place. Yeah.
Evan, for our podcast listeners, can you explain what just happened or what?
My 10-year-old is not used to being famous, so I'm like that newscaster. Where's my wife to drag the kids inside?
Good stuff. Oh wow, big slam.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. Nelson Wheeler's killing it right now. Also hearing good stuff about Landon Von Segern, but offensive lineman coming to college. It's going to take a few years before we know what we got there. But good stuff so far. 2 Omaha guys.
Evan, let me ask you about expectations this year because famously both you and Robert Rosenthal have talked to me about, the biggest hesitation when you like an Illinois team coming into the season is the fact that they just typically have not been good multiple years in a row.
Yeah.
Kind of broke that last year going 9-3 2 years ago, 8-4 in the regular season after that. But this is a team, and I'm not trying to be a hater here or anything, that has not made 3 consecutive bowl games since the early 90s, and that's the only time it's happened in their history. Is there, where does that factor in, if at all, when you're looking at the turnover of the roster, a little bit of shakeup on the coaching staff, and what the last 2 years have been? How do you bake that all together in setting expectations for what Illinois should be this year?
Well, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. We just installed the largest Jumbotron in all of college sports. So that's good for at least 4 wins, I think. You're right. There's this kind of Illinois fan drop off where you're like, okay, we had a good year last year. Now we're destined for 5-7. We're destined for, 4-8. Now it downturns. We start looking to who's next. Genuinely, I think Coach Bielema has broken that in this fan base. I think expectations are now high. There is a lot of turnover, but there's also a lot of trust that has been built in. Okay, we'll see, we'll watch, we'll see what happens. They got a plan. They know what they want to do. So we're going to trust it right now. There's not it's a much better spot to be in when you have questions about what we've been talking about. Okay, there's been a lot of turnover, but a lot of the turnover that has come in has been guys that we wanted. We wanted these guys and brought them in versus what used to be where the questions were, okay, we got the same guys we had last year. Is there any chance they can be better? The answer was always no. But it's a better spot to be in. You talk about 19, including bowl wins, 19 wins over a 2-year span. I think that Coach B has broken records as a coach in all of this. He's already the 6th longest tenured coach in Illinois football history.
Wow.
He's 5th on wins list, I think. I do. There is a piece of you that might always hold on to that. But expectations are pretty high this year. I think if I'm looking at this team, and also to go back, because I don't know if I fully answered the question, I do expect this offense to be more explosive. I think Caden Hauser he's not Luke Altmaier. Luke Altmaier is one of the best leaders, gamers that I've ever seen in an Illinois jersey. That dude, when the game was on the line, you just felt confident with the ball in his hands. Caden Hauser, maybe not as mobile or creative in the backfield as Luke was, but he's his arm is a lot stronger. He can push the ball downfield. He's more decisive in his decision making. And so really it just comes down to what does that turn into when maybe the two most confident position groups we have on this team is wide receiver and tight end. And so I expect a lot of explosive plays. And with all of that, I think the floor for this team as you go through their schedule, the floor is probably 7 wins, and I'd put the ceiling at 10. And Ravi, I know that you're not high because on your Nebraska prediction video, we didn't even get a conversation. We just got this 3-game stretch. Illinois is in there. Yeah, they'll go 3-0, go to the next spot. And I was like, we couldn't even get a 5-second. Ooh, they could be tough. They brought in some people, but we got that. And
in my defense, Evan, did I or did I not exactly correctly peg Illinois last year, right? Because a lot of people were talking about, hey, possible playoff team. They've got all these guys returning, things like that. And what did I say? I said, hey, they made their leap the year before. I think they're going to have a very similar year to what they had last year. And that's basically what played out. I have a sense this year is going to be, I don't know if transition year is the right year, but the right term, but I think the way Bielema coaches and the way he likes to put his teams together, you're going to benefit way more in the next year or so after this team's had a little bit of time to get their seasoning than you will this year. So it's not that I think they're going to be bad by any means. I actually agree with you. I think the floor is about 7 wins.
Yeah.
I look at this schedule and I go, okay, it's not terrible. Really, your big daunting ones are just Ohio State and Oregon. And then you're going to have what I consider coin flip games between like Iowa, UCLA, Nebraska. And that's about it. Like those are 5 games. And so the rest of them, I think 7 really is the floor for you guys. But I think Nebraska by that point in the season is going to be pretty good. And I think that's going to be a win for them. But I objectively, that's a coin flip game at Illinois, 2 teams that are going to be in the middle of the pack, I think, of the Big Ten. I mean, that one for sure could go either way. I just think it's one that Nebraska can get. But it wouldn't stun me if Illinois won that game. Like Bielema hates Nebraska, so like there's always a little bit of piss and vinegar on that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm excited for the season. I think this could be a good team. Can you put that Jumbotron back up on the screen? That was nice. Can we?
Are you guys compensating for something, or what is that about?
I mean, yeah, we're in Illinois. What?
Your town's paid. Have some fun.
So it's the largest one. And just so you know, we did a family movie night there on Saturday night to unveil it. And we watched Air Bud.
That rocks, actually.
Except
to have a 69-foot golden retriever, that's my dream.
Well, here's what happened is they picked a movie that came out before widescreen. And so it wasn't even the whole screen. It was like just the middle portion of the screen, and the rest were ads, and everyone was like,
You couldn't get the Nolan Odyssey cut out here?
Well, yeah. I it.
Yeah, here's what happened is on the basketball side of things, David Mirkovic, who's on our team, he's maybe going to be the National Player of the Year this year, but he did just have surgery on his foot, so he's out for the next month or so. But he famously tells everyone that Air Bud is his favorite movie. That he watched it a lot in Montenegro or something growing up. So it's like, I don't know. Did you know that dog died less than a year after that movie came out?
Why are you telling me that?
Wow.
Why are you saying that? I hope you lose every game from here on out, Evan. That's really neat. Why?
I'm honoring his memory, Bud.
All right. That dog still lives on. That dog just living forever. All right.
If it makes you feel better, so that dog had cancer. And
that didn't make me feel better.
Well, hold on. So they had to amputate his back right leg.
Again, things that don't make me feel better, Evan.
We're getting there. We're getting to the good news. All right. And little three-legged Bud still played basketball.
That rocks.
He still loved to play ball.
Post it up.
For the rest 5 months of his life. But like he just really enjoyed it.
That was like, you know what that Evan does? Like, hey, is this gonna make you feel better? It's like, okay, so your wife took the kids. She also cheated on you, and she burned all your stuff in the front lawn. But you do get to keep the house.
But Illinois football got a new Jumbotron.
That's basically the story you just told. You're like, no, this will make you feel better. It's like, what are we talking about, man?
Well, Jumbotron's pretty sweet.
It is pretty sweet. It's
Okay.
it's a nice jumbotron.
Evan, back to football. I asked this to our Nebraska football beat reporter on Monday, but I'm curious where you think in the projected starting 22. I know that obviously those aren't finalized. There's still non-conference play to go through, but where Illinois stands right now in their 22, where do you think that 22 ranks amongst all of the Big Ten? Where would you put them?
Oh, great question. Let's see. They're not in the, they're not in the top 6, I don't think. Or I know they're not in the top 6. I think they could be anywhere from, like, if I'm going to take an honest, objective look at it, anywhere from 8 to 11 as a 22. But I think coaching staff wise, I think our coaching staff could be top 6, if that makes sense. So
yes.
I think that's kind of where that pendulum swings a little bit, where maybe the roster itself, when you look at an entire 22, isn't in the upper half of the Big Ten. But when you add in the coaching staff we have, I think this is a top half of the Big Ten football program.
Where do you think that 22, or even just with the depth behind it, if you want to go 30, 40, whatever that will be, can you project and say, hey, these guys are going to get better as the season progresses? Do you think that movement could happen? Maybe not close to the top 6, like you mentioned. That's, very quality, high-level athlete, that sort of stuff. But do you think that it's closer to that middle pack by the end of the year if you're projecting, or do you think that it's still kind of in that 8 to 11 range?
No, I think it definitely can get better. And a lot of that comes with the question of, so they're making this defensive system change, and they're going to a 3-3-5 system. And they've been, I don't know if I've ever seen a coaching staff be so secretive of what this is going to look like. So even people who cover this team on a day-to-day basis are like, I don't know. Like we could see there are a lot of guys that I think maybe fit this system better than the system they were in last year. And I think that's one of the reasons Coach B made the switch. But because of that, I think there is so much room to grow. That by the end of this year, there's so much wiggle room on both sides where it's like, man, if this defensive system meshes, I really don't have a lot of questions about the offensive side of the ball. I feel really confident about that side of the ball, that they're going to be able to, put up 21 at least points a game. So the defensive side, can they gel? Can they grow? Can they feel comfortable in this system and terminology and just go out there and play versus having to react and think and all that? Can they just go play football? And if that happens, I think they have so much room to grow throughout the season.
Evan, you said you don't have any questions about the offense. Is there, how do you deal with like a Caden Hauser jumping from American Football Conference to the Big Ten? Obviously, he's got a little bit of experience at Michigan State, but didn't play a ton and wasn't particularly effective when he was a young player at Michigan State. How do you kind of adjust for just the jump up in competition level from the American to the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. Listen, I'm not going to hold that year at Michigan State against anybody.
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
That was such a dumpster fire. But at the same time, he was a 4-star recruit coming out of California. So there obviously was talent there. Transfers to East Carolina. And you're right. Like American to Big Ten, best football conference in the nation. Maybe that's ever existed. Like it's a big jump. I don't think there's any questions about talent. I don't think there's any questions about the ability to run an offense, to lead an offense, to put up numbers, to succeed. I really do. Is the confidence there to make this jump back up? Your last experience in Big Ten football did not go well. Is the confidence there? And is the ability to just put your head down and go? And all reports so far is that, Coach Bielema took him up to Big Ten media days. So there's a lot of trust in him already, that from day one, when he stepped in the room, he was one of the biggest leaders on the team, that he immediately commanded the room, that he was confident, that he was ready to go. He was bringing people in. He got this happens sometimes in college, but mostly NFL. He grabbed a whole group of his receivers and tight ends and his center and flew them out to California over the summer for a 2-week kind of little mini just them camp where they were, running routes, throwing, taking snaps, all that good stuff. So, sorry, this is my wife saying, how long is your interview going to go? Well, as long as I want it to go. No, would never said that to my wife. I looked her in the eyes and I said, yeah, I feel confident, but yeah, there's always that risk of, man, it went bad. Can it go good again? And I think it can.
Evan, just in terms of the Nebraska game itself, where on the importance of the fan that game in the schedule for the fan base, is it viewed as a 50-50, a push? Do they feel confident going in? I mean, obviously you'll have the homerism mixed in there, but give me a flavor of both. What's your personal feeling, non-bias aside, and then what's kind of the vibe from the Illinois fan base on where that Friday night matchup lies?
50-50 is probably the best way to describe it. It feels like almost every year that Nebraska game in Illinois fans' minds is like that swing game. Like that Nebraska game is okay, who are we? Typically, it's been earlier in the season. Mm-hmm. I think this is like the probably the latest that we've played. And so it maybe has a little bit of a different vibe because it's so late in the season. It's like, okay, we can't judge who we are based off of it anymore. But historically in the Coach B era, that Nebraska game has been kind of a leveling out of who are we. So we've always seen it as a 50-50. There's the historical nature of Nebraska versus kind of who we've become in the last 5 years. And there's still a piece of Illinois that's like, okay, we're still trying to, in the echelon of football, we're still trying to measure up to Nebraska. And maybe when you talk about how Coach B hates Nebraska, I think that's a big piece of it too. Of just, obviously he, played at Iowa, coached at Kansas State, coached at Wisconsin. So there is some hatred there, but I think there's also like, that's a historical team. We're not. Like, we would love to be there. And so every time we beat them, it feels kind of like a personal, yeah, we did it. So I think it's 50-50. I can tell you right now, people hate the Friday night thing. I don't know how people in Nebraska feel about it. It's an absolute buzzkill in Central Illinois. But, yeah, people are definitely excited about it. It'll depend for both teams how the season went up until that point. We'll decide whether or not that game is exciting or not. Because I think we are in kind of similar places. So, yeah, but 50-50 is probably the best way. But the heavier 50, the more likely 50 is on Illinois winning that game.
There you go. That is Evan Stone. I'm actually excited about the Friday night game. That works out great for my schedule. So
I was gonna say, yeah, you'll be here. Yeah, we'll go to Applebee's. We'll make it a thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't wait to.
Is that the best restaurant you have in Champaign? Is the Applebee's?
It's the most nostalgic.
Wow.
Listen,
okay. Dollar Margs.
Ever since they closed the Chicken Shack, there's just there's only so many places we can go.
Evan, I have one last question for you. This is for future planning purposes.
Oh, let's go.
One thing that I had pitched to Ravi earlier this year is we started to have some fun with some drafts. We're trying to maybe think about including those. I suggested that you would be great for this, and I'm curious your thought on this. If later on, after the football season wraps up, maybe we do it next summer or whenever, would you be interested in doing a draft of building the perfect Big Ten football program where you get basically your categories are like your campus, your recruiting base, you have to pick a scandal of some kind that you have to deal with, maybe like leadership, all that sort of stuff. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Oh, I'm all in.
Okay.
I answered every one of those questions as soon as you were.
I know scandal. You can't pick that one. That one's too high of a tier. You can't pick that one. I know which one you're thinking of.
Okay. Well, we'll see who has first pick. So you can't call dibs on it. So.
All right, good. So we got it locked in. Now we're good. We're set.
Listen, just it's a bad look calling dibs on Penn State. That's all I'm saying, Evan. That's all.
Listen, I do. Hey, do you see the guy he's got the hall of what does he call it? The hall of creeps or the hall of canceled, where he goes out and he looks for memorabilia and autographs and stuff of like canceled, like awful people. Have you seen this guy? Oh,
no.
Man. Well, he said I found the immaculate one. He found an autographed picture of Jerry Sandusky. He autographed it. and it's like a youth football camp.
Oh
no. He's like with the kids, and it's like, for the kids, Jerry Sandusky, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm never going to find a more, it says college pastor, so I'm not going to cuss, but I'll never find a more crappy individual human being autograph than this. This is the pinnacle of the worst of the worst. So you look him up.
What is the resale value on something like that? Like, why? Who needs that?
Not anything that you'd want to meet to sell it to.
No,
that's true. Yeah, I'm not meeting up with that guy.
Don't put that on Facebook Marketplace that you have that.
Yeah.
No, keep that with Craigslist and Grindr.
You're gonna get a hit from Chris Hansen if you're not careful.
Was that too far?
You see how this looks, don't you?
You see how this looks.
We appreciate it. We'll talk again soon, and tell Rebecca I say hi, okay?
We'll do it.
Thanks,
right,
Evan.
See you, buddy. That is Evan Stone from 93.5 The Drive in Central Illinois. Let's take a quick break. That's Austin. I'm Robbie. We'll be right back. More Hurrdat Sports Live.
Why Nebraska? You had a bunch of different offers and visited a bunch of different places.
Yeah, so I visited a ton of places, and I honestly loved a ton of places. Built some great relationships with coaches, and it was a tough decision. But Coach Jeep Wade said something that really stuck with me. He said, "When you wake up in the morning, the first team you think about, obviously positive. That's probably where home's at." And so I felt like the weeks after I was going on official visits, it was like I'm waking up and I'm like, Nebraska's home. They've got so many pros. I think the program's like such on the uprise, things that people don't see and things that people do see. So I just think that there's things like at Nebraska that, other places may not have had. And so I just think that that's kind of why I made that decision.
Jumped up where we did in and out yesterday, right? We're out to in today. Out to in. So ball's in the right hand. We got left arm stiff arm. When they get through the plaster, pick the appropriate foot up. You guys good on that? We good? Yeah. Okay. Out to in. Plaster. GP, you're throwing. Coach Brown, you got the stiff arm. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. On the stiff arm. So, press the can, pad level, eyes up. Hey! Hey! Nice stiff arm. Nice stiff arm. Nice stiff. Here we go, guys. Pad level, guys. Pad level. Hey! Hey! Up on. Hey! Make sure they get through. Eyeball. Lucy, back up 3 yards. yards. Thank you. Is that ready? All right, Jamal. Come on, Jamal.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
It's like I came out of a coma. It was, I mean, I was at lower levels. You know, we had some NIL, but then coming here and GMs and recruiting department, I mean, it was night and day difference. I mean, when you step between the whites, it's the same. I think that's been fun, exposing the guys to that of, you know, it's the NFL. What's it like behind the green screen? It's like, well, you have to be violent, you have to be physical, you have to get off blocks, you have to pursue, you have to tackle. I mean, it's all the same stuff from that standpoint. But obviously, college football still hasn't found its footing, and you know, I won't speak directly on the grand scope of things, but I think we can all agree that the dust hasn't settled on it yet. So it has been interesting, but at the same time, I think it's been an advantage being NFL, and we've had some neat conversations in our room of just the pull of, hey, these guys have been used to recruiting their own rooms. Now we're leaning on personnel a lot, and just finding that balance. You know, that's what the NFL is. So I think I've been able to hopefully offer some valuable insight. Maybe not.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's Austin. I'm Ravi here at Hurrdat Sports HQ. Reminding you, make sure you get out to Union Omaha. Go to unionomaha.com. They've got another match coming up on the 16th right here in Omaha. It'll be down there at Morrison Stadium. Make sure you go check them out and have a great time. Always fun to be out there at Union Omaha. Make sure you don't miss it. unionomaha.com to get your tickets. What's up?
Nothing much.
Oh, I thought you were
Just
like
hanging out.
raising your hand.
No, I was just scratching the back of my head.
I have a question.
I had somebody say it, and he's probably listening right now. My friend Rosie he sent me a Snapchat yesterday.
Yeah.
He goes, I can see both of our hairlines are receding. I said, both? Excuse me? Thought that was mean. Just because I am 29 does not mean that my hair is going backwards.
29? No, that's aggressive. I mean, that's pretty aggressive out
Also,
the gate there.
why don't you just say good morning or something else?
Like,
Like,
hey,
why is that the way to start the day?
Good to see you.
Yes. Very nice to hang out with you again. Do you like anything from Yelk yesterday? I mean, obviously, like it's nice to get refreshing information about someone that we didn't really know too much about. And I'll be honest, really went over my head. I completely forgot that there was a new safeties coach until just like a couple of weeks ago.
He is sort of the forgotten man on the defensive staff. Like DB would bring him up sometimes, but outside of that, like he has kind of flown under the radar. Obviously, Addison Williams is still here, so we have some continuity on those defensive backs. But for the safeties, I think because I can't remember the other guy's name that was here for like 15 minutes and then left.
The Iowa guy that was like a GA and he had played there and then just showed up and left to go to the Ravens.
Yeah. So there was that guy, and
he got a photo. Yeah, that was nice. Good for him.
You get Tyler Yelk in there. Like it's been kind of a weird spot. Obviously, you had Butler go from defensive backs to D coordinator, but he was still sort of doing some defensive back stuff too. So I do think Yelk is kind of the forgotten guy. I don't think we heard from him in the spring at all.
I don't think so either.
If I'm recalling correctly. So it was good to hear from him. I didn't think there was anything like earth shattering in there. It was just sort of, there's a guy that we didn't really know much about, but he is.
Here's the other part: we're not going to hear from him again.
Yeah,
this will be the one time that we hear from him.
He is leading a room though that I think is really important. We heard AK kind of talk about it a little bit there, and I think there's way more. I say uncertainty. I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, just in terms of who's actually going to start and play. Right. Obviously Guthrie got a ton of snaps last year, although I know some people wanted to slap him. Ton of snaps last year. And you've got Dwayne McDougal coming in who has the familiarity with Orch's system. But there's a bunch of guys in that group that I asked Sam about this on Monday, I think, where
that got a little trend online. I don't know if you saw that, but
I didn't.
Somebody quote tweeted the clip, and people were kind of chiming in about the pairings that you put out, and a lot of people agreed. They would be like, "That's a shocking lineup." I don't know that it is. I think that is probably the closest of all of the battles that you'll see in positions. And again, for starters, right? Yeah. For guys that walk out first snap against Ohio, against North Dakota, against Bowling Green, and then eventually Michigan State. I think that is the closest in that defensive back safety spot. And I think, and also cornerback too, but that's a different conversation.
We're going to see a lot of those guys. I don't know how close cornerback is. I really don't. I think Marshall,
the way they keep talking about Jeremiah Charles, I mean, you have to kind of buy the hype there.
I think Marshall and Jeremiah Charles are your top 2 corners.
I think I'm just projecting Danny Odom to be
elite. I think Victor Evans is your 3rd corner. I think he's the next guy up, and then maybe Danny Odom. But
and you have Donnie and Nickel then.
So I don't really know what to do with Donnie because
he's too good not to be on the field.
Yes, you probably want to get him on the field, but the problem is I don't know what he's going to look like as a nickel, right? When they moved him outside of where he was a boundary corner last year, he really struggled. I don't know if the simplifying of the defense helps that or if it's just something that's outside of his skill set to not play on the boundary.
But we're also not considering that we don't know. I mean, we don't know, right? Because we're not in huddles and practices with headsets and all that other stuff, that we don't know that they have a unique position for him.
Sure. And so Donovan Jones is kind of a guy that's up in the air, whether he is kind of that 3rd corner, and then Vic Evans kind of moves into the 4th corner, and Danny Odom kind of gets in where he fits in as a true freshman. I also think we are forgetting about Amari Sanders, who I think could still have something to say about that. And but I look at like a Jameer Khan. It wouldn't like I expect Jameer Khan to start.
The fact that he was the first defensive back that they waltzed out there,
I expect Jameer Khan to start. At this point, I would say probably a coin flip between Caleb and Dwayne McDougal to start at the other safety. I would flip that coin in the air and say that's where I would land on that. And then I think they really like Jason Shiggs. I know I brought that name up with Sam. That's kind of a name not a lot of guys are talking about, but I think they really like Jason Shiggs.
So just general question. Is it a concern that you don't have solidified safeties? And again, I know someone in chat or someone listening is going to roll their eyes and be like, well, if any position, whatever. But in terms of like a defensive formation, lineup, all that sort of stuff, a lot of people discredit the value of a safety on the back end. Now, obviously, you can get burned deep on pass plays, all that other stuff. But again, that wasn't the concern from last year. It wasn't giving it. Yeah, exactly. So if you have safeties that need to cover on the back end, you feel comfortable about maybe where they were from a year ago, even with the new names. But is there concern for you that there isn't solidified guys back there, or are you comfortable saying, I'm cool with open competition and finding out who the best guy is?
Yeah, so I think a lot of these guys are capable. So that makes me feel differently than because we've seen Donovan Jones play, right? I've seen enough of Caleb that I have no questions about him. Dwayne McDougal was pretty good at San Diego State last year. I am trusting what people tell me about Jameer Khan. So that's the one that is probably the least solid in terms of me actually having seen it with my own eyes. The Vic Evans tape from before he came to Nebraska is pretty good. I like him. He's a corner more than a safety, I think. But like there's guys there that I like what they've brought to the table, and more than just like, hey, they seem to like this guy. Seem like we've seen a lot of these guys or had an opportunity to see a lot of these guys before they came to Nebraska. So I think there's a little bit more comfort level there, but I do think it's going to be really interesting to see what versions of guys they go with, because each guy sort of brings a different skill set. I think Caleb is way better at getting downhill than almost anybody else in this conversation.
It's an instinctive skill of his. It's what he is best known for and what his best attribute is.
It's the thing that I've liked the best about him since high school is he gets downhill in a hurry with bad intentions. I think that really lends itself to the type of defense Rob Aurich is trying to play. Now, obviously, he's got the coverage skills and everything else, but like that's something where it's like, hey, that's why I want him over some of these other guys, and that's why I think he's in a position to potentially start in the fall, is because you talk about simple, fast, violent, like that's what Caleb brings to the table. And I think that's a really valuable, really valuable skill set that we didn't see from some of the safeties last year, right? Like you say what you will about Rex Guthrie, like he was a young guy. He looked hesitant at times.
They also put him in a lot of coverage issues. And I mean, there was the Iowa game against some tight ends and everything. And when you are a safety, you're going to be asked to be one-on-one at different times, especially against receivers, tight ends, sometimes running backs. Yeah, you're going to be matched up in man-to-man coverages in that sense. But you also have to know your place in the zone. I think that there was a couple of times that they kind of left Rex out on an island. And I was one that I did publicly complain about some of the issues that came with Rex Guthrie. But after you go back and kind of watch, I think that there were some times that, again, I still blame a little bit more on the scheme, because there was just too many times, I think, all around, guys were just in bad positions or put into bad positions and expected to be like, you're going to make the play because you have to, because the playbook says you do here.
I think there's two things that can be true at the same time, right? Obviously, I don't think the scheme consistently put guys in a position to be successful often enough, especially later in the season. And I do think there were some things that Guthrie and other guys struggled with, right?
That's fair. Completely fair.
I think both
and
of those
I don't think anybody would disagree.
I think both of those things are unequivocally true, right? And so I think that's the hard part when evaluating some of these guys, and kind of what I brought up earlier, where it's like, well, we don't really like how the defensive line looked, right? We don't like how they played. How much of that is those guys aren't good enough versus they were consistently not being put in a position to be successful? If you put them in a position to be successful, they actually are talented enough.
Are you talking the defensive line to the defensive backs, or the defensive backs to the defensive line?
Well, both, really.
Okay.
I mean, but defensive line is the one that got the most pushback, right?
That's the one where it has to start.
And that's where we are the least confident at the three levels of the defense that there actually is the talent. I think we are the least confident in the talent in the defensive line room.
Who's we?
Like the fan base in general.
We're the least. So we're the least. You're saying the collective we,
the royal we, of
the least
fan
confident
base
in the defensive line out of all three levels
in the talent level. We think that's the worst talent level of the three levels. I think we actually feel okay about the secondary. I think we don't exactly know who's going to play, but we feel okay about it.
Okay, so if you go linebacker, secondary, D line. I'd agree with you. Yeah,
I think with the transfers in, and we really like Vincent Shavers, and you've got, Pierce Mooberry's gotten mention. Dawson Merritt has gotten some mention. We saw Dexter Foster yesterday, which I think is telling. We're like, okay, we've got 5 or so guys for those 2 linebacker spots that we feel okay about. I think defensive line is the place we have the least amount of confidence in the talent in the room. And I'll be honest. So that's the place that I was probably most confident in the talent in the room last year. That obviously did not play itself out the way I thought it was going to. I think there's reasons for that, but we don't know if one of those reasons is they actually aren't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
We know that the scheme did not do them any favors last year, but I don't know. I certainly think the scheme will make them look better this year, but is better good enough? That's the question that's left on the table. And that's one of the things I want to talk to Tim about on Friday, because I really want to focus in on, whether it's Jashir Whittington, which we heard about yesterday,
who looked violent in some of those clips that came out.
We know the talent level of Williams-Nwaneri. Will we ever see it on a consistent basis? We thought we knew last year of the talent level of Riley Van Poppel. That's probably the biggest question mark. I think if you could tell fans, hey, Riley Van Poppel is going to be the guy you thought he was before last year, I think people would feel way better about the defensive line.
Yeah. If you said you get a Ty Robinson senior year performance out of Riley Van Poppel.
Yeah.
And is that asking too much? I'll ask you, is that asking too much? Because he has been touted as a future Ty Robinson. That's why he took a redshirt year when that was still applicable.
Yeah, let me see here. I'm going to bring up Ty Robinson.
His stats are not going right. RVP's stats are not going to showcase anything in terms of a projection right now. But I'm curious when you pull up Ty's stats from that last year.
So that's
if
what
that's
I'm
something
at.
that you could apply and say, is that translatable or projectable for RVP? Because listen, as someone who listens to a lot of this stuff, and I know a lot of people in the chat are very knowledgeable on this too, and have memories of an elephant. They're going to remember this sort of stuff, right? Like they will remember that when that red shirt was applied during that season when Rule was here, he specifically said, I had a conversation and sat down with RVP about you could be a future Ty Robinson, you can be a future high draft pick, or you can contribute right now. And he would have rather taken a longer step and a longer career to be able to get that mark. Now, obviously, you find out later with the 5 for 5, all that sort of stuff, right? You can't go back in hindsight's 2020. But I'm curious to know what that looks like for the defensive line as a whole, if you have RVP step up into the role that he's kind of been projected into.
So I've got the stats for Ty Robinson up right now. In his career, so he was a 6th-year senior by his last year at Nebraska.
Right.
He had COVID plus a red shirt. Until that last year, he had never had more than 2 sacks in a season. So in the last year, he had 7. Okay. But until that year, so we will be in year 4 of Riley Van Poppel. Riley Van Poppel had 1.5 sacks last year. So on projection wise, kind of in the neighborhood. Aside from that, tackles for loss, Ty Robinson had never had more than 4 tackles for loss in the season. Riley Van Poppel had 2.5 last year. So again, not a terrible departure from what we've been talking about. And then in overall tackles, the Riley Van Poppel had 16 last year, and we were looking at 29 for, in year 4, he had 24 for Ty Robinson. So we're in the neighborhood. Now, the tackles is where the biggest departure is, for
Mr.
sure.
Robinson's neighborhood?
Yeah, in Mr. Robinson's neighborhood.
That's a big sweater.
But I don't think, now, as a super duper senior, Ty Robinson goes 7 sacks, 12.5 tackles for loss, and 37 total tackles. So there was an enormous jump there. I don't know if that level of jump is realistic for Riley Van Poppel, but if you can get him into...
What if you can project it over 2 players?
Who would that be?
So if you ask, just ask, if you get Whittington and RVP, and you project those stats across 2 players, again, how much disruption does that add comparative to what you did a year ago?
Let me bring up Nash Hutmacher real quick.
Okay.
Just to give... Okay, so as a senior, Nash Hutmacher had 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and 24 tackles. So we're talking 60 tackles, 16.5 tackles for loss, and 9 sacks. So you're saying between 2 players, can we get that level of production, basically?
Yeah.
So that's an average of 4.5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 30 tackles. I think that's reasonable between each for 2 guys.
And again, I'm trying
to
trying
moneyball this thing, but to recreate them in the aggregate. I think you can, I think that is 4.5 sacks doesn't feel like, oh God, wow, that's crazy, right? 8 tackles for loss, good number, does not seem wildly unrealistic. 30 tackles, you would, honestly, I think you would love that from a defensive tackle because you're making a lot of plays at the line of scrimmage. So that one maybe is on the highest end of those numbers for me, but I do think there's something to this idea that we're talking about a 4th-year player in Riley Van Poppel now. I'm looking at Ty Robinson's stats right now. We were not impressed through even 5 years, really, but certainly not through 3 or 4.
I think we do forget often that the conversation was, when are we going to get Ty Robinson,
and at a certain point, we just didn't think we were going to.
Yes.
Which is fair, because through 3 years, we're talking about 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for just not a lot of production there from a guy that ended up being really good and hard to replace.
And an NFL draft pick.
So that's the guy. So Riley Van Poppel's the guy to kind of get back around to this. Riley Van Poppel's the guy where I go, hey, if you told me, let's say 4.5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 20 to 25 tackles, I think people would feel way differently about the defensive line because you're like, oh, maybe they are good enough. Because again, we feel good about the talent of Williams-Nwaneri. Whatever that ends up actually looking like, we like his talent. I think we're willing to hear out the talent on Jashir Whittington at least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The one that we really, really don't know about is Riley Van Poppel. I think we kind of assume what we're going to get for Cam Lenhart. Super solid, going to do his job, probably not going to put up a bunch of stats. I think that's sort of where we land on Cam Lenhart, and we're all sort of okay with it. But Riley Van Poppel's the one where it's like, hey, if we could get a little more disruption from you, I think it changes the entire landscape of how I feel about that defensive line.
Well, and that's how I feel about Williams-Nwaneri. And I refuse to get off the Nwaneri train until proven otherwise. Until he legitimately walks off of Lincoln's campus for the final time, I don't think I'll ever not say, man, I really hope he can get to that double-digit sack threshold. If he can get that 9.5 sacks that Randy Gregory had, I think his senior year or his last year in Lincoln, if he can get to double-digit sacks, a pass rusher or that disruptive of a player is such a significant impact that you can't
100%.
measure, right?
Yeah.
And again, you talked about creating in the aggregate. Like if you have multiple guys who are making plays, awesome. But there's something about a game wrecker, a guy that just completely annihilates a game plan, and you go, we can't go to this side of the field. We can't read RPOs because he blows up our plays. All that sort of stuff. And Nwaneri is the guy that has, again, because of the 5-star, because of his projection, because of his talent level and everything that he's been evaluated as, that's the guy that you have to look at. It just hasn't shown up. And again, I had issues from last year when you go back and watch the games. His Michigan State game was his best game. That's just because he just physically dominated people. Yeah. He could not physically dominate the rest of the Big Ten Conference. Now that he has a new defensive line coach and he has new eyes on him, maybe there's something that opens up with him. But I think, again, you can say RVP. I'll say Williams Nwaneri, even with who knows what else is like happening in that defensive line room if we're going to get a name that pops up. But just because of pure projection, if you get a guy that can be as disruptive as we have been told in whispers of Williams Nwaneri, that's the guy that can make the biggest difference on your defensive line.
So I agree that he can make the biggest impact. I think in terms of fan perception, getting if you got a certainty out of Riley Van Poppel, that would change how we feel about the group in general.
Okay.
Now, if you gave me a certainty of, hey, you're getting 10 sacks from Williams Nwaneri, like, yeah, that would change how I feel about that group as well. But we don't actually talk that much about quarterback pressures from that group, right? We talk a lot about stopping the run. When we talk about the defensive line, most of the issues people have is about stopping the run. Hey, they were too small to stop the run last year. We actually don't complain that much about getting pressure on the passer, which we probably should complain more about, to be fair. Like I agree with you. If you can get a guy that makes it so you but you can consistently get pressure without having to blitz.
Yeah.
Totally changes the entire dynamic of a defense.
Yeah. Pressure rate is the important stat.
Yes. More so than sacks, more so than anything else. Pressure rate, being able to consistently generate pressure with 4, I think is the biggest game changer on any defense. Williams Nwaneri is the most direct line to say, hey, look at where this guy is. Look at his skill set. He seems like the most logical place to be able to get that thing that we want, which is pressure with 4. I agree that is the most disruptive thing that could happen. But I think because of what we feel about his talent, we feel like that's much more likely to occur than it is that Riley Van Poppel turns into a Ty Robinson light. So I think that's where the difference in fan perception is, because we do still, I think, from everybody I've talked to, we do still at least respect the talent level of Williams Nwaneri.
Yes.
We're just waiting to see if it ever clicks. With Riley Van Poppel, I've heard a lot of people who's like, Van Poppel sucks, RVP sucks.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
You get a lot of the like, duh, he's not what he's trash. He's not what we thought it was. We should have gotten out. I hope Owen Stoudemire starts over it. Like I don't get that with Nwaneri still. With Nwaneri, we're still like, hey, this guy can still do it. Look at that guy. He's a freak of nature. With RVP, we're just like, nah, we got to move off him. Got to find somebody else.
Very similar Ty Robinson vibe.
Yeah.
Very similar.
So I think that from a fan perspective, I think that would change the most out of how we feel about the defensive line. Because I think we already feel okay about Williams.
Yeah.
We're not sure what it's going to look like, but I think we feel okay about him.
This is way too far of a projection too, but hearing how some of the players yesterday, specifically Shavers, and I think it was McDougal as well, talked about Owen Chambliss. And again, I'm making a wide and far projection, but remember where I'm coming from. Carolina Panther fan, I've heard a lot of this sort of stuff. The way that they talk about Chambliss is very Luke Kuechly-esque, where how cerebral he is, how the game comes naturally to him, how he's not this wildly loud and outspoken leader, but he gets guys in the right position and he knows every single layer of the defense and where people need to be lined up. That's what Luke Kuechly was an all-pro at. I'm not comparing Owen Chambliss and I'm not comparing Luke Kuechly to one another.
No, but there's a huge amount of value in having a guy in the defense that can help everybody get on the same page. Like and
Dwayne even said that too in his press conference, that he was asked, how did you help other guys? He's like, oh, well, me and Owen were the guys that, just got people together during the offseason when coaches weren't around. We just told them this is how people line up. This is how we do it. And then other guys have talked about, Owen is our guy that we go to and we lean on. And he was talked about on Saturday with Rule that, I trust Owen to be able to get guys lined up and in the right spots and positions. I think that's huge at linebacker because that was something we haven't heard over the past few years is linebackers. We've talked about making tackles in space and impact plays. And I mean, BC talked earlier today about Vincent Shavers in that opening game against Cincinnati and making, playmaker turnovers and that sort of stuff. But sometimes it's the really simple things, just getting your defensive tackle, hey, shade over. Hey, we expect this coming your way. Hey, I've seen this in film. I know what's coming.
Or talking to Shavers right next to you and be like, hey, make sure you look for this. This is how it's going to, this is where it's going to present itself. This is where you need to be. Like that's a huge factor there. Whether Owen Chambliss physically, whether he turns into an all-conference player or whatever, I think just the value of him being there to get everybody in, quarterback the defense and get everybody on the same page and everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Like, listen, we said hesitancy saps your athleticism. Confident defenses are fast defenses.
Yes.
And if you can be confident in where you're supposed to go, I feel way better about that. And listen, Archer's bringing up maybe he's not the best draft prospect, whatever. That's fine. There's a lot of really good college football players that aren't good draft prospects.
Yeah, listen, and linebackers are a great example of that too.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of fantastic college linebackers that did not get drafted, never had great NFL careers, but I think, again, you set up everybody else for your success from middle linebacker, and you are the quarterback of the defense. You set up a lot of other players for success. Does not necessarily mean it translates into your professional career, but it does mean that you can have a lot of success in your college career, and you can set up others for a lot of success.
And I'll put Luke Reimer in this category, right? How good was he in the Tony White defense? That's not a guy anybody was talking about as a draft prospect. Now he did get an opportunity in the league because of how good he was, but that to me is where these things are important. Yes, I understand having pros is important. I also understand that having guys that understand their job and can execute it at a college level sometimes doesn't always look like what pro teams are looking for. And sometimes they don't know it's what they're looking for until they see them do it on a big stage. Nobody was looking at Luke Reimer coming out of his junior year or whatever, but guess what? He got an opportunity in the NFL. Maybe Owen Chambliss is the same way. I don't know, but I do like having a guy in that spot that can confidently help get people in the right positions to make the plays.
Yep.
All right, that's the show for today. We will be back tomorrow. That's Austin. I'm Ravi. It's been Hurrdat Sports Live.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.